record. Okay. Welcome to the October 7th, 2025 session of TAPR and HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I have been helping my daughter move her apartment. Her apartment complex is remodeling, and she has to move out for 3 weeks, and then she gets to move back to a new apartment. So um, it's a pain to move everything, but I had to help her. So that's a big part of what I did. I've been working on some K9Q radio stuff as well. So, but that more to come later. Next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Dave. Just continuing as usual, trying to keep all the projects going at Scranton and for HamSCI, and I think things are moving along. So that's kind of it for right now. Back to Nut.
Okay. Next on the list is Bob, W1XP. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, good evening, gentlemen. This is my second time here. I'm still getting my feet wet, but I've got a Whisper Demon set up, and I was out of town. I was visiting my home in the Midwest for a week, and when I got back, it was hung up. So I rebooted it, and it seems to be working fine again. And I switched the antennas while I was gone to something that was less of a lightning collector. But I'm back on the other antenna, and the count was up to 2,600 an hour. So
Yeah,
I don't know where that stands, but
I think you are doing extremely well, actually. Bob, you are the number 7 top spotter in the entire world.
Oh,
that is really good.
I mean, like, you are far and away beating pretty much here. You can see it right here. See, there you are. And yeah, like I know some of these people up here, like I've heard about WA2TP. He has a very sophisticated multi-antenna setup that has all sorts of fancy programming to decide which way to turn the things and which ones to use at different times of day. But yeah, you're doing great.
the system is not external noise limited below the broadcast band.
Okay.
And if no one else does, but I have an interest in 630 meters, and I think it should be working. I thought somebody said at WWVH or WWVB. Is that true?
The RX 888 has if it's unmodified, has a bias T inductor in it that together with the bypass cap resonates at 200 kilohertz. So there's the performance of an unmodified 888 is poor below the AM, even starting in the middle of the AM broadcast band. Without you can open it up and just cut the inductor out, and you'll get response down to 40 kilohertz. But without that, you're, as it's delivered, it has this completely useless in any application bias C inductor.
There's a 30 dB roll off.
Yeah.
Below the broadcast band.
Yeah. Well, that's from that inductor.
Okay, so that I have no idea whether that's there or not, but it sounds like it is.
I'm certain it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's down 3 dB at 630 meters, and it's down 15 dB at 2200. So, and if you remove the bias T, then that goes away, and its roll off because of the transformer is 3 dB at around 45K. So I'll put a link in the notes to a blog page on what you need to do to fix that problem. But anyway, don't want to hold the introduction.
Very good. Thank you, Clint. Next on the list is Dave, KD0 EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello, everyone. I've been just plugging away at things. I believe, Nathaniel, that I truly, really, and truly have some code for you. And I'm just doing cleanup and testing now. So, other than that, I have very little to say.
For those of you who don't know, Dave is talking about the magnetometer code.
Right. Is this the code for the pi eliminator?
Yes.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah. It's better designed and structured than what we've used in the past. But it threw me some curves, or at least I don't know. I can't think of a good excuse. But anyway, it's taken me insanely long. But
Yeah.
But it doesn't help that I want it to work 20 different ways. Um, but I think it'll all be there in the end. And I've been pushing it all to GitHub, and I will send you an email in a day or two, hopefully. I hate to say anything like that, but saying, okay, just pull it down, build it, and try it.
Thank you.
And I've made some little testing utilities too along the way, so it's easier to see if things are working and so forth.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the list is Clint, KA7OEI. Go ahead, Clint.
Hello. Just just been doing, just random stuff, not particularly related to this. Although one of the things that I was thinking about is that at the Northern Utah WebSDR, I would like to work and find out what I would need to work toward the functional equivalent of a DAISY site, although we will buy the equipment ourselves. So we don't, I just want to it's a remote site, and just want to find out what the complement of equipment is so we can get it up and running. So be interested in learning more about that. I think mainly what we're missing is a magnetometer and maybe some VLF stuff, but that's easily arranged. And we'll do that. Just, the more the merrier, I guess. You can't have too much data, right?
Oh,
Right.
I completely agree. We'd be glad to help you.
Right. Yeah. Also, I was referring to the. I think Bob. I'm on 630 and 2200 meters, so I transmit and receive there, and so in fact, I was just looking at the logs, and we have been receiving some of the VKs and whatnot on 2200 meters already this season, when the North American continent isn't full of spicy clouds. So anyway, I'll send it back to you.
Okay. Next on the list is Dave H. W6OQ. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, good evening from Los Angeles. Just here hanging out, see what's happening. They're working on my bathrooms this week. That's good. Alrighty. They put in a whole bunch of extra 2x10 joists to hold up the walk-in bathtub, walk-in shower. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Thanks.
Well, that's always important to have a good working bathroom. So next on the list is Dave Julian, WB9YIG. Go ahead.
Oh, good evening, folks. Not much going on here. Just got back from my New England cruise, so still in the recovery mode, and the floor keeps moving on me. So it'll stabilize out here in a little bit. That's about all. Back to the desk.
Okay. Um, Next on the list is Gary, AF8A. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I've been sitting here preparing for a couple of trips on behalf of HamSCI. In about 2.5 weeks, I've got my Colorado jersey on. We'll be, myself and at least a couple of other HamSCI members will be at HamCon in Grand Junction. So I'm about to post some of the details. We've got the forum dates and times from the HamFest committee, and I'll post that on the HamSCI Google group shortly. Second thing is I'll be visiting K3LRs this Friday to bury the cables out to the receiver and ground magnetometer, and then disconnect the current setup and reconnect it. I've been looking around for documentation on how to do that. I know there's a lot of Whisper Demon documentation out there. I forgot where it's at. I got to find it again, but there's not much in the ground magnetometer. I'm a little worried about some minor details like the username and password and stuff if I happen to need all that. I just don't want to pull the plug and plug it back in and hope for the best, because hope is not a strategy. So that's where I'm at the moment, and I'll stand by and pass it on, Dave.
Okay. Next on the list is Michael Howen, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, everybody. Just got back from a really nice 10-day holiday up in northern Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Camping and hiking and biking and kayaking and gathering around the campfire, that kind of thing. It was quite nice. I did receive an email from Gary, and I think I responded. And I've been talking with Rob about some software configurations that might be useful for the DAISY deployment of Whisper Demons, including Proxmox and Debian, over arching the Whisper Daemon itself install. And that's it. Back to net.
Okay. Well, we look forward to those improvements. Next on the list is Phil, K9Q. Go ahead, Phil.
Hey everybody. Nothing really much to report. Kind of been busy with other stuff the last couple of days, but I'll be around.
Okay. And then next on the list is Scott Newell in 5TNL. Go ahead.
Hey, sorry, nothing to report this week. So back to y'all.
Okay. And then we have Tom in 5EG.
No, good evening, Dave, everyone. Still working on the board layout, managed to screw it up yet one more time. I think I'm going to set a record for doing that. And figured out how the clearance on traces on the inner copper layers are different, set in a different menu than on the traces on the outer layers. Took a little while to figure that out, but still hacking at it. One of these days it'll actually get better. Back to the group.
Well, we're looking forward to it working and trying it out.
After this, it's just a matter of hardware test and then simply a matter of software.
Yep. Very good. And next on the list is Rob Robinette. Go ahead, Rob.
Hi, everyone. Let's see. I think not much that's relevant to this group going on. I've been working on Whisper Daemon software, which is not directly involved in the HamSCI project. So, I think Phil has been working on Anasound capturing and recordings, which I'm interested to see that's been going on.
Starting to think about it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, that's sorry not to overcommit you. Anyway, that's mostly. I think that's about it. We've got, and Michael and I are talking about the Proxmox based DAISY Whisper Daemon installs. For any of you who use it, KPH has been down for the last few days. It's one of our reference sites. I think it's a power supply issue that there was a extended outage. Telephone poles were plowed over by a driver. And
Oh.
I think the power supplies, UPSs, fully drained their batteries. And I think many of the consumer UPSs, like those you buy at Costco, the default behavior is they don't turn themselves back on. So once they're fully drained, you have to go and push the on button to get them to run again. And I think I forgot to change that setting on the equipment out there. So anyway, that's my worry of the week. So back to the network. We talk other things.
Okay. So have I missed anybody? I believe I called everybody on the list. Well, at this point, we're open for general discussion.
I might say to Gary, if you're going this Friday, maybe I can create a breakout room and we can just chat about it to make sure you have all the support you need for Friday.
That'd be good.
Yeah. So Dave, I might just, unless anyone needs me right now, I might split off and go talk with Gary about this Friday's logistics.
Sounds good.
All right. I will do that.
I won't. It'll be difficult to reach on Friday, so I'm wondering if you need, Whisper Demon help. If Michael might be around to.
That sounds good. Let me I don't think Gary has access to the VPN system yet. So I think what I'm trying to do is I think I want to see if I can get him set up with the VPN and then
the K3LA doesn't have a rack number assigned.
No, it does, but Gary doesn't have access to the VPN.
Oh, yes, of course.
So,
you have to get him a.
Yeah, so let me talk with Gary about that, and then that'll be good for him to know that you and Michael are going to be available on Friday. I'm really fortunate. I got selected to be a chaperone for my son's field trip, so I will be with him that day. But that also means I won't be available for support. So, but let me see if I can work with Gary now and try to get him.
Just so you know, I actually work noon to midnight on Friday, so I will, however, be available thereafter for quite a few days.
Great.
Well, I'll be driving back from Big Sur on Friday, so if you can reach me on my cell phone, then I'll do what I can.
That sounds good. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Michael. I guess back to net.
Okay. Well, we're open for general discussion.
Hey, you want to talk about frequency chirping?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting subject.
Yeah, I've been thinking about. I mean, I have a very limited chirp capability already in Radio D. Radio D, remember, does coarse tuning followed by final tuning. The coarse tuning is by some integral number of FFT bins, which are 40 hertz typically. And then there's a complex oscillator that runs between plus or minus 20 hertz that does the fine tuning down to whatever you actually want. And I do have a Doppler feature in that fine oscillator, but the maximum it can change without changing a bin, it would be 40 hertz in in 20 milliseconds. So that's 200 hertz per second or something like that, which is much too slow for what you want here. So it's going to require a lot of rethinking of a new architecture. I guess the usual, excuse me, the main application is, of course, going to be ionosounds, but I'm also thinking about like frequency house spread spectrum and other things that involve dynamic frequency changes. So I'm trying to think if there's some general way that I could support all these modes with chirping just being one special case.
Well, is this going to be possible to work within the off of one RX888 that has two different have different
Well,
demodulators in essence, or
it depends on how I do it. I mean, if I made it part of like a special digital down converter, then yeah, it would just be yet another channel that would share the common front end. But if I were to do the de-chirping, let's say on the input, the time domain, then obviously the receiver couldn't be used for, or at least that instance of radio D cannot be used for anything else.
yeah. Well, one good news is that we've had up to 4 888s connected and working on a host B-Link. So
I think you're really
adding a
pushing
second
your luck
B-Link
there,
wouldn't
but
require
okay.
another host
You're really
computer.
pushing your luck that many, but okay. I get nervous every time you tell me you've added another RX888.
Well, it was an interesting exercise. It's I ended up writing some bash functions that assign the radio D or the FFT to its own CPU core, and all of its peers, the proc threads, all the other threads in that group, my program assigns to the hyper-threaded core, because the proc, as it turns out, the proc 888 function thread doesn't do as much work as the FFT. So kind of ends up with you have a balanced usage of the
Yeah.
CPU time on a pair of threads. But interesting thing is that if you go up to three direct attached 888s, the B-Link, the 58, 20, 25s, they're just fine. All of the FFT threads run at 40% of a CPU.
This is 3 at 129.6 or something like that.
That was actually that's kind of a guess, but a pretty educated guess. It's Ulia, who's doing this testing, has 4 888s, and he was running them at 64
Well,
megasamples.
there you go. I mean, there's your problem, right?
N-
4
no,
at half rate was 2 at full rate. So
well, that it was half at 4 rates. So, but the CPUs were very lightly loaded. They were running at 20%.
yeah, it's
Each.
almost eerie to see how much idle time we have on these systems, even if the USB system is starting to run out of gas.
Yeah, there's well with up to 3 active 888s directly attached. Well, actually, they were attached through a hub, passive hub, worked fine. Um, the CPU utilization state of the radio of FFT was constant at 20% for the whole 2 minutes of the cycle.
Yeah.
As soon as I added the 4th 888, the CPU utilization would stay at 20%, so it'd be 420% FFTs until Whisper Daemon fired up and started running the Whisper D at 100% on the other cores. Those cores were not
Obvious cache contention.
Yeah, it was obvious, and it was they all went to 100%. So
Yeah, I mean, that is
so
the
the
sign,
cache was
right? I mean,
the 16 megabyte cache was too
I
small.
mean that is the sign of cache contention, is when a program that should take constant CPU time starts increasing. That can only
Yeah.
be caused by cache contention.
Yeah, well, that's so but 3 of them work just fine, and you could put 4 of them on if you don't want to do whisper decoding. So
my problem is figuring out how to get all the USB connectors to actually connect me to the bus I want. Now I've been having this problem with USB 2 in my AirSpice. Maybe it's not a problem with USB 3. I don't know.
I
go ahead.
I just tried 2 times to, and I don't know if this completely addresses the issue Phil's talking about, but I just tried 2 different times to upload some notes I prepared about how to at least give persistent names to the devices in dev that connect a particular connect a particular USB device to, that you can open persistently over reboots and get the same configuration. And I tried, and I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but I tried twice to
No,
upload those files.
it's a
Well,
little different. I'm talking about low-level hardware. I mean, there's hardware inside the USB controllers that apparently
right.
connects a socket to a logical um, USB controller hardware.
Well,
No,
I
no, I
don't
mean, I don't have any problem accessing them in software once they're on the controller that I want.
No, that's not quite what I meant. You're able to each time I attached one of these files, either way, it it crashed me out of Zoom. I was trying to attach them to a chat, and that obviously doesn't work. But there are a number of ways to you can create you essentially you create UDEV rules that creates a device with a particular name that you attach to. It's like for GPS or whatever you want. And you can do it using the serial numbers. You can do it with
No, wait.
the kernel identifier.
You're just talking about names within the dev hierarchy?
Well, that's part of it.
Well, because that's not
But
my problem, right? I mean, I'm using library routines that just search everything on the bus for their vendor codes and everything,
right.
and device
Okay.
codes, and I don't care where they appear. I mean, I open them by that handle. I don't really care
Right.
about what name they have under /dev.
Uh-huh. But they go to different places on the controllers.
No,
Is
no.
that
The problem is when I plug it in, even without running Radio D, when I plug in my devices and then do ls USB-T for
uh-huh.
fun, I guess you get a list of all the USB controllers on the system, and there's like, I don't know, 10 or 12 or something like that, even on one of the
Right.
D links. And
Uh-huh.
they're paired. There's a 480 megabit and a 5 or 10 gigabit one paired. And
Right.
there's a whole bunch of them. And then the machine has 4 physical USB-A connectors and typically one, maybe 2, depending on the model, USB-C connectors. And there's
Uh-huh.
some kind of low-level hardware routing that takes place in the control when you plug in a device and it does the initial negotiation as to which controller is going to appear on
Uh-huh.
at that level. Okay.
Well,
And sometimes I'm seeing like 2 480 megabit devices being thrown on the same controller when another one is completely idle or empty.
all right.
You can't do that with an AirSpy because you're using up half the bandwidth of it's running a continuous stream like 240 megabits. So you really want each one to have its own controller.
Right.
Now for
So
USB-C, this is not really a problem, even with the 888, because at full rate, you're talking about 2 gigabits, and these things have maybe 5 or 10. So you could actually share one of those, even a 5 gigahertz port with 2 888s and not have a problem.
okay. Yeah. Um, well, but is this a question of it using inconsistent mappings through the hubs that are on the motherboard?
I think it's at low level. It's inside the USB controller subsystem, and
Right. Right.
I don't think I know if it's even controlled in software by the current machine. No.
Well, yeah, I'm still not completely clear that this might not address the problem, but I did find some other things as well. But I thought this was going to solve what I wanted.
Well,
But
once when the devices show up, I always find them. I see them. They're just on the wrong
sure.
controllers.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and so they're on, but and so they effectively come out on different physical ports on the
They
outside of
they
the
they
box.
they appear. I mean, I can talk to them just fine, but I start losing data, or things
Right.
start getting a little ratty because of the
Right.
performance limitations. It's not a problem of finding them. I always find them just fine. It's which controller do I find them on?
Yeah. Well, some of those are actually hubs that map
Yeah.
um you know, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of a Wild West under there.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Um,
virtualization going on because they've stretched the USB model past what it was supposed to be back in the 90s when they came out with it. There was a controller, a hub, and then a bunch of
uh-huh,
ports, and everything was static mapped, right?
right.
And then things got complicated when they started adding in the higher speeds, and you have devices that have to negotiate to a certain speed. And then they came up with USB, let's see, it was low speed, full speed, high speed, super speed, all these different
Oh yeah.
speeds, and I can never
Oh,
remember which is which. And then
well,
eventually,
the
the
way.
latest controller came up with some kind of internal mapping fabric so that you could map like any connector to any logical controller. All the controllers I think are on the same chip. Um,
Well, I'm just showing you. Here's Uli's
yeah, there
with
you go.
currently
Yeah,
three.
that's exactly what I'm talking about here.
Yeah. So,
Uh-huh.
but this actually he has an external hub, and the one external hub attached to an internal hub,
Right.
and he has two B links on that external hub.
Oh,
His,
that's
it,
okay.
yeah, this works just
That's
great. Now,
fine.
yeah, but this is we see the same problem. Here's the other hub that has just one on it. But
Yeah.
four of
Uh-huh.
them worked, and they would be split on the internal hub or split on the external. Um,
Yeah.
you'd have two on internal and two on the external, and that worked fine until we ran out of CPU level 3 cache bandwidth.
Yeah, I don't see any like air spies on it. My problem is specifically with the air spy
Yeah,
Well,
because
the
it uses
888s are
USB 2.
Well, I plan to look into this some more, but I can't promise.
That
There
would be
are
great.
yeah.
other there are other utilities available. I had some of them ready to hand last week, but I kind of couldn't get anybody's attention. But and I don't have that in front of me now. But it's a subject that it's it's one of those dreary subjects, but it's how you've got more than one root hub on the motherboard of the or on whatever's inside
Right.
the box, and the root hubs each have things that peer off them, and whether the essentially I think they make either bridges or I don't know what the terminology is, but they but whether they always configure the same way or not is
It doesn't
it,
seem to be a particular. If you plug a B-Link into one of the jacks and
uh-huh,
replug it, excuse me, later, it might show up on a different bus controller each time you plug it in.
uh-huh.
That's the problem I think Phil is
Phil's
describing.
talking about. Yeah. Um, yeah, it would,
So there's something between the jacks, on the
sure.
the jacks on the outside of the box and the USB bus controllers. There seems to be some switching fabric,
Right. Exactly. I think that's
Yeah.
defined by
and
the
And
latest
who
version of
who
X.
controls it? And
Yeah.
yeah, and there may be differences between chipsets. These things are not exactly made out of cast iron.
Right.
I've had
Um,
times when you plug it in and the B-Link, the triplet will come up on a USB 2 bus controller. For
yeah.
reasons I don't know. I mean, you have to
Well,
unplug it and plug it back in, and it'll pop up and it'll show up on another controller at USB 3 rates.
well, it should initially connect as a USB 2 device long enough to download the firmware to
Ah,
run.
okay.
See, now the Cypress chips, I mean the Infineon chips, I guess they are now, um, really have essentially they get the physical device presents a USB 2 interface, which is used to load the configuration software into the device very quickly at startup, and that determines the overall configuration of the USB 3 mode on there. And it may be that in some cases that's, getting stuck or at least in that case. But if you're having trouble with USB 2 devices, that's a lot more, those are more, uh, those are simpler and been around a lot longer, and um, they don't have as many ways to go. But it all sounds worth it. But it's when you use a, which device is it? The radio, the other radio?
Oh, the AirSpy R2.
AirSpy R2. Okay, I've got one of those here somewhere. I'll try playing with that and see if I can get any interesting behavior. I'm setting up a fresh B-Link de novo here for testing the magnetometers, but those only use USB 2, and that's very simple. But I do want to use a fixed device um, entry in /dev for the software to connect to. Um,
It depends on the USB library you're using. The live USB stuff, I asked for a list of all the devices and I say, okay, give me, or I'll use, for example, the AirSpy library and I say, has a call. It says, show me all the AirSpy devices on the system. It figures that stuff out. And then I pick the one that I want.
right,
Never
right,
had to
right.
deal
But
with a dev name.
no, no, no. Yeah, but you also can create your own name, like /dev/PSWS magnetometer,
Oh, all right.
uh,
Yeah.
and that have that symlinked through by UDEV on
Oh,
boot
yeah.
up.
Yeah, sure, sure.
And that's what and I was planning to use something like that to try to stay out of everybody else's way,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
to pick the simplest and make sure I didn't go getting on a higher function port that somebody else wanted to use. But that's why I was studying it. But I'll look some more on here and see if there's
Okay.
it's the thing that everybody in Windows always howled that they couldn't have because of the way Windows was architected. But you can do that in Linux. You can give them a name that stays
Yeah.
there, and even doing testing here, if I
Yeah.
forget that I've got something open in a window,
In Radio D, all the SDRs I use have serial numbers, and in Radio D, you select, a device by its serial number. Now, in the common special case where there's only one device, well, it just automatically picks that one. You don't worry about it. As soon as you add a second one, now you got to start worrying about serial numbers, and that
mhm.
gets painful and tedious. So yeah,
Well,
having a symbolic link would be nice.
yeah, there are evidently, you can use the vendor ID, the product ID. You can use the serial number, and you can use
Yeah.
something out of the kernel um, that it's giving me back. I tried to upload these notes, and it just completely tra
Yeah.
crashes Zoom every time. And but I did send them to my account. I can email them to anybody if anyone's interested. But they're just they're just. But I'm going to continue to embellish them as I go along.
Yeah. I actually avoid the serial number problem. I have three air spies, but they're all coming off the same power splitter off the same antenna. So they're all interchangeable. So I don't care which radio D gets which one when it starts up.
Right,
I did that to
right.
fix a bug that kept that from working properly, but once I did that, it's I don't have to configure anything.
Yeah, and I'll send these notes to Scott. He and I need to talk about several things. I see he was interested in something. Yeah, there's a lot more to know about all this, even in Linux.
Yeah. You
Actually,
remember the old
wait.
days when you had to set IRQs and port addresses on cards?
Oh, very, very, very well.
It's
Yes.
like the same thing, but a little higher up.
Yep, yep, yeah. Very, very painfully well.
It would be nice if
And
the SDR itself knew what antenna was connected to. You just query it.
yeah. Well, the trouble is the
Hey,
manufacturers of these
there's a
devices.
feature for our new RX 888 Prime, right?
Okay,
Seriously,
well,
seriously, some way for the host to query the device so the device knows what antenna is connected to. if that's possible.
It's a thought. It's certainly a thought.
You communicate that one to Paul.
Paul's not here tonight,
Okay.
and I need to chase after him. I've just been trying to get this thing out the door, but there is lots you can do. I know, for instance, you can put on the at least in the case of a new RX-88 type design, you've essentially got an I squared C bus that you can address through that port onto your motherboard, and you can have uh, a chain of a little memory that identifies anything,
Right.
unique identifiers, anything you want on the radio,
Right.
temperatures, things like that.
Yeah.
And it's looks pretty easy to use,
Yeah.
but uh, yeah, the trouble is you're never going to solve all these things because when it wasn't done right to begin with, everybody invented ways to live with it
Yeah.
the way it was, and after a while, they
When
just
we had
can't be
piles of
fixed.
serial ports, you got to keep them all separate. That's still a problem.
Yeah,
Ham's like the
yeah.
only ones that still use serial ports.
Uh, yeah, real serial ports, yeah.
Oh, even virtual ones are not very
Yeah,
common.
yeah. There's whole mechanisms though, and I believe it's supported in in almost all the hypervisors and stuff, and Linux kernel, virtual kernels and stuff, to virtualize USB across the net. There's a whole standard kernel
Yeah.
mechanism for you called USB. Um, I can't think what it's called, but and I'm pretty sure that's how the hypervisors do it to provide you access at your desktop to a
I
port that.
think it's gotten easier with the latest, was it XHCI or whatever? And it was specifically because of virtualizing. I mean, the older controllers required the computer the host to actually be doing a lot of the polling, which is
Uh-huh.
very inefficient in a hypervisor
Uh-huh.
environment. So I think
Yeah.
the newer ones were designed to do a lot of that stuff in firmware
Uh-huh.
and send only data upstairs to a driver, which makes things a lot more efficient when you virtualize.
That's the kind of kernel minutia that most people don't have reason to look into very often.
Yeah.
But there's some things that in all that might be useful to us now and again.
Yeah. Whereas I would say, well, rather than virtual or remoting USB across the network, why not just put radio D on the device that has the devices, on the same machine that has the devices?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you only
But
have to send the actual demodulated signals back, which is going to be
sure,
millions of bits.
sure. But sooner or later you want everything they'll give you for something.
Oh.
Did we get Scott's new Watchdog version of
I accepted a bunch of pull requests the other night, including his one that added 3 more copies of.
Oh, that's right. I
firmware.
saw that. Okay, I missed. Yeah, I forgot. Well,
And I think I emptied the queue of all but one. He put in some debug stuff, and I wanted them to make that have a runtime toggle. I'm trying to keep the log from getting too polluted. Syslog.
Yeah.
Other than that, I
well,
think I
then
emptied the
if
queue.
let me know if you make any other if you have some changes coming up. I'll wait a day or two, but I can.
Well, I haven't really made any major. I mean, I made little changes, documentation changes, stuff like that. Nothing major since before a month ago when a month ago now when I had my surgery.
Yeah. Well, I think Wayne has some changes, and I don't. So I was, I have to go in and just. It takes 5 minutes for me to specify the new pair of commits, but I have been distracted elsewhere, so I haven't updated it. The commits that are selected in the latest Whisper Demons, but so they're still a month old.
Phil, there are a couple of pull requests on WWVSim as well.
Oh, okay. I hadn't noticed. I didn't know if anybody was doing anything with that. I'll take a look.
Thank you.
Just, I don't know I got a note from Dave Schwartz that he couldn't go out there last week. Unfortunately, his next chance will be the week of October 28th. So
Is he able to
unfortunately,
get in? I mean, it's a national park, right? So,
no. This is out at a farm that's owned by a friend of his. This is not
oh.
the transmit site. This is the receive site.
Well, yeah, but the receive site's part of it was on a park, right?
No, it's not. It's not on the park. The
KPH?
transmitter's on parkland, but on U.S. land. But the receive site is on a private farm.
Oh, I thought it was all national park. Okay.
No, no. So it's so he can, it's just when he's available, and I think Dave is moving uh over to the um the west side of the Rockies uh sometime in the next few months. So I think he's out of town a lot right now, getting ready for that, getting that place ready for him and his family, I guess. I don't know the story. So sorry, Scott. It's not.
I'm looking at your pull request right now, Scott.
Yeah, I'm just so anxious to finally get this pulse per second working at another side. It keeps getting delayed.
Yeah, just little request. When you do add options, like make sure there's a flag or something that turns it on and off. It's not just on all the time, unless it's really uncontroversial. I try to gate everything with a runtime option or flag.
I'm sorry, Phil, I missed the beginning of that. What?
Oh, well, you sent a pull request in, one of the ones for KNIQ radio that added some debugging information on the PLL, and I
Oh,
didn't see
yeah,
any
yeah,
way
yeah.
of turning it off. So I deferred on that one. I would like to see some kind of toggle or runtime. So I'm trying to keep the log from getting too polluted with stuff that people don't want to log.
No, I understand completely. The
Yeah.
pull request was more for discussion. I wanted you to look and
Okay.
see, did I do what I thought I did? Is that the
Oh, I
correct
see what you're
way
saying.
to
Well, I figure
acquire?
I figure you'd already worked that stuff out. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be wrong.
One pull request down here. Let's try the other one, WWV Sim. It's just amazing. A program I wrote as a joke is getting that much use.
Well, I'm not actually using it yet. It's on the horizon here.
I'm also fighting this temptation the idea I've had for some time, which is to write a 6-channel maximal ratio combining WWV timecode decoder. Combine all 6 channels together, not vote, but actually combine them before decoding.
I mean, just take the FFT bins from them and
Not quite. I mean, you take the baseband channels from each one, look at their signal noise ratios, you combine them. There's a nonlinear way you combine them according to their signal noise ratios to give you a total, a sum, and then you decode that. So, it's one way to work around. It's a way of getting redundancy. I learned this trick at Qualcomm. When you have multipath components in CDMA, when you received separate time offsets, you line them up and then you weight them by their signal noise ratios, and then you run them into the RFEC decoder. I mean, if one signal is much stronger than all the others, it doesn't really buy you anything over simple voting. But when all the signals are about the same strength and they're all weak, sometimes you can decode something when you would not be able to decode anything at all by itself. Like when they're within like 3 dB of each other is when you really start to see the improvements.
So, Phil, are you planning to come up next weekend for the?
Yeah. Well, we're right now. Our current plan is to drive up Wednesday, I think, for Pacificon, and then that'll end on Sunday, and then we're open.
Okay. Well, that's I'll be out of we're going down to Big Sur for a few days, and we'll be back
So you won't
Friday
be at Pacificon?
afternoon.
You won't be at Pacificon?
Oh, yes, I'll be back on Friday. So I'm
Oh,
planning to
okay.
come on drive over on Saturday for the day.
Okay, then we can work out what to do after.
Yeah, and then we can decide what to do.
Good.
Although we may not be able to get, well, we can always go to KFS. That's
Yeah.
but at KPH, I described the power supply problem out there. So,
Yeah.
and there's no easy access to the park. They've shut it down. I guess you can drive through the park, but the facilities are closed, including the.
If I go to KFS, I just want to walk the grounds and see if there's anything obviously wrong that can be easily fixed.
Well, I think I learned from Elmer in particular of the fragility of BNC connections.
Oh yeah.
And the KFS is filled with BNC connections that are connectors and connections that are 50 years old.
And it's all how close to the ocean?
Oh, it's 200 yards, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So it seems like it would the site would benefit from serious cabling, and that's something you and I would do. But I've been trying to lure
maybe if you
Clint
show
and
them
Brett out
exactly where
here.
to go, that might be enough to get them to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's anyway, or Michael or somebody more adept. It's all I can do. I'm to just keep it alive the way it is right now. But I looking at some of the RFI and especially broadband RFI I see in the system. I wonder if there aren't any, poor BNC connector problems there. And of course now I hear, I've heard at times, I've heard from Lily that the Southwest antenna is now good, and even the Northwest is good when there's openings to Japan, but I don't listen to them, so I don't know. When I go and look at the Southwest antenna, it looks terrible. So one of the things that if I go out with you, I'm going to take my little battery-powered Kiwi and plug it in downstairs and look at what's actually coming out of the distribution rack downstairs, and see if the problem could be the cable going from downstairs to upstairs. But there's no end of such work to be done there.
Okay, let's see. Pull request, I think, is handled WWV sim. I think.
Well, this is a startling, shattering silence in this group. We don't have other topics. It's a What are we doing wrong, Dave?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I was sending myself an email to keep track of some things here. So
I have a question maybe somebody could answer for me. I have before me two B-links, that one of which I got early on, and was using for to drive a laser that I have. And then I have another one, it's got CAD software on, but I got another one just with intent of putting it up at my farm. and I thought they were distinctly different models. I got what I thought was the one everyone was using, but there's nothing on to identify either of them as any well, there, there's a product name, but there's nothing the way you all refer to them. There's no, I can't tell which one's which. And
There is usually a model number sticker on the bottom.
yeah, I'm looking at it. And they both are model SER type. And one is identified as a Pro E, and then a lot of gibberish. And the other one is a Max, and I don't know which of them, but none of them have the numbers you talk about.
Yeah. Well, if you log on to the command line and just type LSCPU, it'll show you what the CPU is in there, and
Okay.
that's the most significant difference.
Well, the thing is, one of them's unconfigured, and I was just trying to guess which one. I want to configure one, the other one, and I trying to guess which one to start with, so I don't overwrite.
You have a Pro E and a Max. I think the Max might be a newer CPU.
Max
Do they have
E.
different ports on the outside? USB port configurations?
No, they're identical to look at.
Okay.
There's
Well,
just nothing.
it'll
I
be
mean, I
hard.
could.
Yeah.
I know I bought them with different amounts of memory in them, and I suppose I'll be able to tell once I get in there.
You have is Linux installed on them?
On one of them, but not
Yeah.
on the other.
Well, you could boot that one up and just, ls CPU will tell you the CPU, and well, there's a ls mem or something. There's a similar thing to tell you.
Yeah, it's just that you all talk about them very specifically, and there's nothing on the outside of these things to give you a hint of what how
Yeah,
that
I know. Well,
corresponds.
I
I didn't know if there was something wrong with the ones I have.
nothing. I think they're just fine. I thought, Clint, you had one that was a Pro. And it's really a 5800, a Ryzen 7 5800 something. And I don't know what the Pro, if you do LSCPU, they've truncated the name when you see Pro. There's more to the CPU identifier string than that. It's Pro 5800U or something like that. So, but the only way you can really, I know how to see it at least, is to boot into Linux. See, external, put a US, Debian install disk and just bring up a command line, and you can learn about your hardware environment.
Just don't want to overwrite the one that I was using before, because it has some stuff on it I want to keep. But
well, you can.
I
In general, I've been for the last few months using Debian 13 as my default OS.
Okay, that's good to verify. Debian 13. Anything else?
No, I mean, if you're working with Michael, you might start with Proxmox version 9. It's a Debian 13 based.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And then you have to just, once you bring that up, you create a virtual machine that's you do an install just like you would for bare metal, and you get the you get the environment that we're working on. But if you don't want to struggle with that, just the Debian 13, let's see that it doesn't include Git. You have to install it. You have to do sudo git install, And let's see what other, there's a couple of other things that, if you create a user, let's see, there's something about, I'm trying to remember whether it's sudo or something other about the default state of, oh, no, yeah, I can remember. Yeah, you can create a user whisper daemon. And you want Whisper Daemon to be part of the sudo group. That's okay. You don't have to. The major
Okay.
thing you have to do as root after installation, even that you could get around, but is to do uh, the let's see, just do an apt install git because you're going to need it. But
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I'm pretty familiar with a lot of that stuff, including Proxmox. But I wanted, I, I would like to make a complete setup, at least script or something for the magnetometer that doesn't collide with any other activities going on, but that would simplify, because I've walked too many people through that part of it, and I've even forgotten
yeah,
what I used to do. And
well, Michael and I earlier were talking about creating a kind of an ISO disk, an ISO that you could download like you would the Debian installer or the Raspberry Pi installer, and it would
well,
include all of the Proxmox and all of the associated pre-configured Whisper Daemon software, so that um,
uh,
that's that was
I think that's a good idea. It certainly worked well for the grape people.
I would want it from my Whisper Daemon users too.
Yeah, because yeah.
Not that I'll continue to install bare metal installations, but I think for standardization and site security, access security, that running in a virtual memory environment seems like a good thing. Maybe it would help with magnetometer. You'd have a separate uh, VM for the magnetometer.
Not impossible. It certainly would keep me out of other people's hair. But well, if you do go that direction, I'd like to stay in the loop hearing about it, so that I
Well,
don't.
talk with Michael. I've asked him to take the lead on that.
I'll do that.
And you guys are getting together every Tuesday,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
We should see each other tomorrow. This one has 16. It looks like one.
I think all of the B links are 16 gigabyte.
Oh, there were ones that had all sorts of, you could buy them with all different provisions. That one has 16 in 2.
They had
2
models that
mini
had
SIMs.
1 and 2 terabytes of NVMe, but
That
we
one's
don't
got
need
one.
that.
I'll have a look at
That
this
may be the
Mac,
Pro. The Pro may be one that has the Pro aspect was the more DRAM, but
Well, I just wanted to be sure that I had something that had the appropriate processor. And I thought when I was buying it, I did, but it's probably was easier then than now to buy these things. And
yeah, I mean, the major change between the CPUs has been moving from the 6-core, the 55 or 5850s or whatever they were. Those are 6-core hyper-threaded cores, and more recently they're all 8 cores.
see what the Mac says in it. And that explains what that little rubber thing is. That little red tab.
There's this utility that Phil, I think it was Phil introduced me to, LS Topo. And if you have
LS Topo.
if you have a X, a -X SSH connection, if you have a, graphic screen, it draws a nice pretty picture of the CPU architecture and the PCI bus and everything. It's
That's
and it has a character mode output as well, but the graphical output is very, very nice. I learned stuff from it.
yeah, this is different. One of these has a little shell to hold a SSD card in a in a drive form or a hard or an actual spinning disk. This one are different. Oh well. Yeah, the one thing, well, it doesn't, I don't think it counts for anything for these projects, but the V-Links do not have Ethernet NICs that can be used for timing, whatever you call it, PTP or timing, making a small timing network to pass more precise timing around your local network. But some of the others do, some of the other of these type devices do have that. Come on, don't make it complicated.
Oh, it looks like we lost people to the breakout room. I don't.
There's a breakout room.
I see. There's
Yeah, there's a breakout room, but nobody's in it.
Yeah, okay. I never used breakout rooms, so room 1. I see. If you want to go there, you hit join. Okay. Okay, well, it seems like we've reached the end of our tonight's discussion. At least I've contributed all I can. So
I'm reading Clint's blog here about SolarEdge optimizer noise. God, this has become a problem.
Yeah.
A big one. Well, actually, I'm surprised and glad to see that you actually got some help from them. I thought they were completely uninterested in solving the problem.
You got to get they will do something, but you have to. I have an example of one, and the guy that was I was working with K70W, where he had two neighbors that had solar edge. He's one of those people that would be persistent to a fault, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You don't want to get on his wrong. You don't want to get on his bad side.
Huh.
It will drive you absolutely insane. And good on him. But I have also talked to some folks at ARRL, and it is possible to get them involved, but they kind of need very very good evidence before they will act.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I was on the call with them, and then when I sent him the plots, you could tell that they came from an HP analyzer, so that between all that, we'd already done our homework. I went over there a few days before
Yeah.
last year and characterized or the system. Got right up to it with the permission of the neighbor with the Sense antenna, so I knew exactly what came out of it. So I knew exactly what I was looking for. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I just don't understand how they ever got this stuff on the market. I guess they drove a truck through a hole in the Part 15's reg.
well, I don't know, but it could be that each individual unit will barely pass Part 15. But I'm guessing the way the law is written is that if you have one of these optimizer units, it radiates Part 15 things. But if you have 48 of them on a roof, that is
Yeah.
what is it? That's about 17 dB higher suddenly.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's kind of a loophole, sort of. Now to be sure, Enphase has had the same problem, except that they implemented a very effective spread spectrum on their clocks.
Yeah, which, as you point out, doesn't reduce the total power emitted.
No, I mean, it might go unnoticed. And I've exchanged emails with a few people who have Enphase, modern Enphase, like the IQ series and stuff, on their houses. And the general consensus seemed to be, if you have it on your own house, you're screwed. If it's on your neighbor's house, you may or may not notice.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
I'm hearing it all around me. I do not have it in my house.
well, yeah, I do have solar on my house, but I have Sunny Boy, and they don't radiate anything. I mean, I mean,
Oh, here we go. Oh, this is not a new article. Solar Edge and GrowWatt found in breach of Swedish electromagnetic rules. Some products banned from sale.
oh, that's right.
Now get a load of this. The Swedish Electrical Safety Agency has ruled that some Solar Edge optimizers halting their sale in the country. Solar Edge expressed surprise at the banning and claims that the complaints filed with the Electrical Safety Agency came from a handful of amateur radio operators.
How long? Well,
So, they don't count, right? I mean, it's just a bunch of hams. They complain all the time, right?
well, yeah, I think, as I recall, I remember hearing on what the ICQ podcast in the past year that at least Germany, I think, put a kibosh on Solar Edge until they got to the bottom of it.
I heard that the Netherlands has done something a couple of years ago. I mean, if Germany is also, that's great. The more the merrier. I mean, they're doing what our FCC should be doing, but isn't.
Right. Let me check. I checked the University of Twente, the what is there. I'm just going there now. I'm just kind of curious to see if I see it right now. Let's say what 14,000 kilohertz. Zoom all the way in because I saw it. Oh, it's in the middle of the night there, of course. Of course it is. It's two. That's not going to happen. But I when it was daylight on the University of Twente, which is on a college campus, I could see them there too. So I'm guessing that would have been. But I don't know. I don't know what the surroundings are of that. I know the northern Utah side doesn't hear any direct during the daytime because it's, as I point out in the article, three sides of, we have swamp on three sides and mountain on the other, and the nearest cluster of houses at all is at least 3 miles away.
Yeah.
So, but and I've also noticed that if the conditions are crap, I do not see those on the Utah SDR. So, yeah. But anyway, but yeah, I don't. Yeah. What do you do about it? I mean, it's there's so dang many carriers that it essentially becomes Gaussian noise.
I know it's yeah. And I hadn't really paid attention to the wideband noise that you mentioned. I mean, I'm seeing that too, but I assumed that was coming from other things. I was focused mostly on the carriers, as you know, because they, like you said, they're the most obvious.
Right. When you say wideband noise, which wideband noise?
Your blog talks about the raising of the wideband noise floor increase that it has 60 hertz amplitude components in it.
Oh yeah, that's pretty low level though compared to everything else.
Yeah, but I mean that could come from any switching power supply.
True. Yeah,
The cluster of carriers, as you point out, is characteristic of Solar Edge.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and there's other ones too, like on 7071 and at 14071 you hear another set of carriers that are weaker, and there's a bunch of other ones kind of along similar lines that are at
Yeah.
odd offsets.
And did you say, or somebody say, that you've actually sometimes heard this stuff coming off the ionosphere?
Oh yeah, well, which blog are you looking at though?
I don't know. Actually, I found a link to it from ChatGPT. It cited your blog page.
Okay, I did a blog entry on, let me bring it up here, on the 10th of last month, where I talk about the propagated stuff.
Yeah.
I'll just plop it in the thing here. Oh, that's not it. That didn't work at all. Hang on. I was editing some HTML code, and that somehow ended up in my. Let's try this again.
I mean, I've been wanting to put up a new system, but I haven't done anything because I need to know all this stuff so I can avoid all the stuff that's bad.
Now, a Sunny Boy without optimizers, at least the X1000 series and the something series, like SB 5000 and SB 5.0, or whatever, 5000 or 5.0, referring to the power level. Those produce those inverters run at a fundamental frequency of 16 kilohertz. But by the time you get up in the AM broadcast band, they're pretty much gone, and none of those land on any ham bands.
Yeah.
So I can hear them. I can hear them on my LF antenna up to a few hundred kilohertz, every 16 kilohertz, but they're well filtered. And if you stand in front of the unit with a portable shortwave radio, you only hear something if you get within a few inches of the front panel.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're quiet, and I'm told that. I don't know about the newer versions. The Fronius are similar, but at least that version of the Sunny Boy are completely quiet on HF and UF as well.
You know anything about
is always hard to clean up.
Tygo?
I know nothing. I don't even know who would. I've never heard of that brand.
Yeah, it's probably somebody else relabeled.
It's just amazing how much noisy junk is on the market. Widely deployed. I tracked down some really bad switching noise around here to some cheap Chinese-made Apple power supply replacements. Then I realized, oh, that's why they're so much lighter than the Apple device.
Oh, okay.
So I slapped a big label and gave them away. I should have trashed them, but I mean, they were still functional, but I wasn't going to use them.
Yeah. Years ago, a friend of mine, WA7X, he got some solar lights, and they literally caused 20 dB, 20 over S9 noise on 20 meters, when he fired it up. And I'm just looking here. He was, oh, I coupled a transformer into the power cable from it, -3 dBm from a lossy transformer that I just made you know, 1 turn of the primary and
Yeah.
4 turns to the spectrum analyzer, -3 dBm. So we got so at the time, Electronic Goldmine had some Schaffner RFI filters, 2-stage RFI filters, well, single-stage RFI filters like this. It took 2 of the damn things to make these lights quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them alone wasn't quite enough. But this yellow line, I mean, the cyan line is with the turned off, and the yellow line is with the turned on, and you can say it went up to 100 megahertz. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, this thing should have had it ID'd itself, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but it turned out kind of to be moot, because he reported that within like a year or so, these things had just died because they were just so poor quality.
Oh, you just did an update last month. I just
Yeah.
found that.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Distant Solar Edge.
that's the okay. That's the one I thought you were looking at.
No, I was looking at your one from last year. But that was the one
Oh,
it's linked to with all the background stuff.
okay. Oh, okay. Well, okay. I thought you might have read. You know, I thought they were linked to each other, but maybe I need to double check.
Well, actually, well, they might be.
Uh,
I was just wondering if there's any way that if there's data in there, and I think there is, whether it was even possible to decode the data as a way of identifying which system is generating the noise.
well,
But
the way you tell which system is generating the noise is you drive around, and the one that's 10 over is when you drive past the house is where it's
well, yeah, but I mean, there's solar panels are all over the place now here, and I've just watched as the noise has gotten steadily worse over the last few years.
right.
It's like they're everywhere. And I don't want to go banging on every door. Well, yeah, I should go around just trying to get a good guess as to which one have them just by
Well,
driving by first.
so I have a HF mobile in my vehicle, and you know, as they say, boy howdy, I can tell when I drive past a house with solar edge on it.
Yeah.
When I'm driving down the freeway or the expressway, I can, you know, hear, you know, just like one set fade in, another fade out, and overlay
Right.
and everything
Right.
else. I mean, it's
Yeah, you see them slowly fading, and I assume that's just due to shading and you know,
right.
DT
And
dither, stuff like that.
the other thing too is at K70W's house, I was there at the time when the sun set. You know, I was there for hours the
Yeah.
one day. And you could and you tune in to the you know, one of the 200 kilohertz intervals, and around sunset you start hearing
Yeah, right, right,
they stutter on and off literally.
right. And
You
then they
kind of
drop
hear them
out.
kind of disappear and sputter out of existence.
Right.
And the thing that absolutely floored me, and I think I mentioned in the article, was that the Solar Edge engineer said, "Oh, well, you may be a candidate for us to put our RFI filtered version of the optimizers."
Yeah, and the question is, why isn't that the standard version?
Or right. I practice. If I hadn't been on the video call, I would have done a face plant, you know, palm plant.
Yeah.
The hell.
Yeah, I think the problem is a loophole in part B where they only limit conducted emissions below 30 megahertz conducted into the power line. Well,
Right.
that DC loop is not the power line. They never considered a situation where these things be put on a structure that's large enough to radiate.
Right. And also, I could easily, you know, I don't have access to a screen room anymore. But I could easily believe that just one of those might just be barely legal. But you typically have 10, 15 dB worth on a roof.
Yeah,
I mean, they add
yeah,
up. But
they do.
right. So years before, I don't know, 2015, 2016 maybe, there was some N-phase 180. One of the hams had an N-phase 180 system. And that was prior to them putting a spread spectrum on it. on it, and what he reported was that his HF, the only way he could run HF at all was wait till it was night and then pull the prime power from the breaker feeding the rooftop system, because
Yeah.
even with any power applied, they produced spurs everywhere, and those were just CW, little carriers just every freaking where on there.
Right.
And once I knew what they sounded like I had my FT817 in my car, and I hooked it up to my, the dual band antenna. I could hear that SOB from 2 blocks away.
Sure.
I could still hear it. And of course, and then he managed to get the manufacturer Enphase to pay for putting snap-on ferrites on the leads of the optimizers or microinverters. They were microinverters in that case. You know,
microinverters. I'd heard microinverters were clean, so
well,
okay.
so these are, well, so what he said though, I asked him later, I emailed him after that, and he said, did the ferrites help? And I told him what I thought at the time. He said, I think they made it a little bit different, but not really. And that's exactly what I told him. You cannot get enough reactance through a snap-on piece of ferrite at HF to do a damn bit of good.
That's right.
And you can't get multiple turns through it because these wires are just as long as they need to be on all these pieces.
Yeah, ferrites are not a magical pixie dust solution.
No, you better use them. I mean, you better, if you can use them with capacitors, you're better off. But but that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the so as I was saying, the modern Enphase microinverters seem to be quieter, or at least use spread spectrum. But I know 1 or 2 people that have systems on there, and it would be interesting to take an analyzer over there and see if I can attempt to do an integrated power measurement.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know exactly how to do that precisely,
Yeah.
But then again,
if I put up a new system, it'll probably be a high voltage DC loop without optimizers, because I don't think I really have shading problems. And just make sure I get a really clean inverter on the side of the house.
Right. I mean, I don't know what the current crop of Sunny Boys are like, but I know the older ones are just fine.
They're still all made in Germany, right?
I think, well, the Sunny Boys I have seem to have been made in the US, but they seem fine. I mean, they're fine.
Okay.
I mean, the US made ones and the German made ones look similar, except from what I can tell from the pictures, the German made ones have a lot more orange on them, or some color, and the US more toned down. They have more gray on them. Just one of the covers is gray instead of orange or red or whatever they are. But yeah, I have 3. There's, including myself. There's 2 other hams that have Sunny Boys. No, 3 other hams beside myself that have Sunny Boys. And the only problem one of them had was, nowadays you have to put rapid shutdown on everything, on the modules, and the Sunny Boy ones were self-powered, and the DC to DC converter in the rapid shutdown system runs off the high voltage DC, and it did radiate a bit. So and I know that because WA7X has a neighbor across the street, also a ham, and he got his system in, and he noticed a carrier in the middle of 60 meters, and just figured out eventually that every 100 kilohertz or so, 100-ish kilohertz, he could hear that same carrier, and they tracked it down to the rapid shutdown interface. And I think
rapid shutdown is, what's that, for fire?
Okay. Yeah. So if you're going to get, so first of all, if you have an unoccupied structure on your property where you can put solar on it, put it there. It'll make a hell of a lot easier. And the rule, you can put a lot more on there. I have a detached garage, and the rules on an unoccupied structure are very different from an occupied structure, and you can put a lot more panels on there, because if it's an occupied structure, in most states at least, you have to have like a 2 or 3 foot walkway around.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know that in California,
Yeah.
some of the rules.
Right. If it's not an occupied structure, at least in a lot of places, you don't need any of that.
Right.
If it's an occupied structure. The other thing too is since it's my garage, since it's an unoccupied structure, I don't know if, well, let's see, at least it was the time that I last made a change to it. Since it was an unoccupied structure, I did not need it to have a DC rapid shutdown on it. It was okay to have a AC rapid shutdown on it, just so that
What's the rapid shutdown?
So the rapid shutdown is the thing now is to make sure that you can do one thing, pull a lever, push a button, throw a breaker, to make it so that there's no high voltage DC or DC more than some distance away from a solar panel. I don't know what that distance is. It used to be like
distance
where it went into the roof, and now it's, I think, changed a lot of places to within like 2 feet or a couple, a meter of the panel. So what
is that going to ban a high voltage loop without optimizers?
No, but it makes it a bit more of the PITA, because if it's on an occupied structure, I believe that each panel does have to have this relay doohickey that disconnects the power so that there isn't high voltage DC, there isn't DC more than a short distance away from the panel. That complicates it. One of the reasons why SolarEdge uses optimizers, besides optimizing, is that my understanding is the SolarEdge either optimizer, I don't know for sure which way it is. It either detects the ripple from the inverter to know that the inverter's there, and or the inverter sends a carrier up on the DC line.
Or just look for DC current.
Well, no. The optimizers on the SolarEdge are inert unless the inverter says I'm ready to go. They signal to the optimizers, and once they do that, only then do they output DC, because the SolarEdge ones are DC, high voltage DC systems.
Right.
The Enphase are not. They're mains voltage at every panel.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of sympathetic with firemen who have to get up on the top of these. I mean, they made a big deal out here about being able to cut holes in the roof and not running into high voltage DC while doing it. And I can understand that.
Right.
It's just trying to find the simplest way to give them what they really need.
Yeah. So, when I got my solar on the roof in 2016, something like that, and then a year or two later, it accidentally doubled in size. I don't know how that happened. It was the same time I got a pair of Tesla Powerwalls, and so what actually happened was that Tesla Powerwalls will generate officially 10 kilowatt, provide 10 kilowatts of generation. So they had to amend the agreement with the power company from 5 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt. And it's somehow at the same time, there's also 10 kilowatts of solar. So nobody actually looked at anything. It's like, oh, 10 kilowatts of solar. Well, that's what the paper says. 10 kilowatts of generation. Looks fine to me. But I made sure everything matched everything else. And whereas another couple of friends of mine have just added it to their, just connected it, one friend of mine, I don't know, he'll generate more, he'll generate on a good day, he'll generate like 115 kilowatt hours.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I can, the best I've ever done is like 59 kilowatt hours in a day. And my garage has a north-south ridge line, so it's not a very steep roof on the garage, but east and west facing. And an east-west facing roof, you can put more effective solar on it than you can on a south-facing roof. Mainly because if you don't put solar panels on a north-facing roof and expect it to do too much.
But except in Australia.
Well, true. Generally speaking, except maybe in the middle of the summer when like at your latitude, the sun is 80 degrees above the horizon. But if you put it on if you have a mild or moderate east-west faces, then you get a peak on the east panel. It's kind of in the mid morning, just in the hour before local noon, and you get then you get a bit of a peak on the other one. So it flattens out the curve a bit, but in the winter you get less overall than you would with the south facing. But since you can put about twice as many panels on a symmetrical roof on an east-west with east-west aspects than you can on a south-facing one, you're ahead of the game anyway. And the expense is not the solar panels and the inverter. That's not the main expense.
Labor.
I mean,
The labor, yeah.
The labor and the permitting and all that stuff. Yeah. So,
what did you say your maximum generation was?
on a really good day when it's not too hot, and my house is orthogonal to the compass. On a cool late June day that's not cloudy, just shy of 60 kilowatt hours. But
okay.
But my total peak generation is that I've ever seen. I have a 3.8 and a 5 kilowatt inverter, and I probably need to swap the two because the 5 kilowatts on the older panels, the 285 watt panels, and the 3.8s on the same number of 295 watt panels, and the same size solar panels are north of 340 watts now, just because of technology. So it's 3,900 plus 5,200 equals. So I could probably push 9 kilowatts out to the grid on an optimal day. No, I can't do that. I can push a little over 8 kilowatts out to the grid on a really optimal day where the temperature is kind of cool but it's sunny. In the middle of June. So
hey, I just read your article from last month about how this stuff's getting propagated. Well, one thing you didn't think to check for is, well, how about pointing your beam east at dawn? And if you can hear it where it's dark where you are, you know it's getting propagated.
Well, we do have the beam at the Utah SDR that is fixed east-ish. But I do believe it is being propagated because if the conditions are crap, I can't hear them.
Yeah, you did say that. That's a pretty good argument. Yeah. Well, of course, it also could be because it's been cloudy over the whole area.
Well, I don't think they propagate. I don't think I'm hearing them from the towns. 10, 15 miles away is where the closest town where there might be any numbers of them. I don't think I'm hearing them that far away.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is, with HF Mobile, you drive out of town a bit, on a day with bad propagation, you don't hear them really. But then again, my car isn't totally quiet. My Jeep isn't totally quiet on electrical. It's a little quieter if I turn everything off.
Yeah.
So, but I believe they are propagated. But the thing is, I don't think that whether it's cloudy or not has a huge effect on things. But then again, the conditions have been bad. I've had bad propagation conditions with it being sunny in the general area and not.
Yeah. I guess it is true as long as there's any light at all. I mean, the panel output voltage is going to be close to nominal and the inverters will be up and running. I mean, the controllers will be up and running.
I do not.
It's not putting out a lot of current.
Yeah, I do not know what it is that's at 200 kilohertz, why there are carriers. So I don't think the 200 kilohertz has anything to do with the actual DC converter frequency.
Well, I was wondering whether there's communications.
I think it is. And so I think that's mainly it. And the low level AC modulated white noise, I think, is probably the spread spectrum converter noise. Probably.
Well, why would it have AC on if it's in a DC loop?
Well, it's not because okay. So all modern DC input solar inverters are transformerless.
Right.
So what they have is they have massive banks of capacitors, as you can imagine.
Right.
So, but the AC waveform rides on the DC. So if you went on a roof with, and looked at the DC bus, you'd see this, 3 or 4 or 500 volts DC. Plus, riding on top of that, you'd see whatever it is from the leg to ground, from the mains.
Okay.
Right. So, and also, so I mean, just from space modulation alone, I could believe that in near field you would see the 160 hertz or 120 hertz hum on these things just from space modulation, alone, and plus, since they are driving a big, since they're sourcing a big inverter, I could also believe that there's probably a little bit of, if you were to put a clamp on ammeter on the DC line, you'd probably see a fair bit of ripple because the because the capacitors can't do a perfect job. I mean,
and unfortunately, we don't have three-phase feeds in the U.S.
No, not really. And it probably all works out because I'm sure that the switching converters will ride the waveform, but what that would have to mean is that as the capacitors go charge and discharge, you're going to have ripple and current.
Anytime you have a single-phase system, you have to have capacitors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
So
No matter how good the regulators are.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to get one of those and reverse engineer it. But probably I'm sure that somebody has done it online, but I haven't seen like EEV blog tear one down and just see exactly what it is.
That's another reason I wish we had three-phase residential power in the U.S.
Well, we're quote lucky to have split phase.
I used to have it at a house in Birmingham, Alabama, oddly enough. Don't know why.
In some of the older cities back east, they actually have one leg that is 90 degrees out of phase or apart.
Yeah. That was actually to get around some of the early patents on three-phase.
Yeah. Apparently, I think Philadelphia still has some of that in some of their industrial areas, but it's roughly 90 degrees. I understand. I think they just use reactors to simulate it.
Yeah, and it does not have the advantages of three-phase.
No.
Canceling neutral currents and so forth.
Correct. Yeah. But yeah, it's just. But anyway, it's. Yeah. But that all these noises are going to slowly get worse.
I know. Well, here's another way you can do it if you really want to DX storage stuff off the ionosphere. Is look to see if the look if you can get 60 hertz off of it. Look to see if they're on if you're on the same network grid that you are.
Well. So what was it? Was it Tom Van Bach? I think it was. Who was that guy that took the atomic clocks up to kick?
That was him.
Tom Van Bach. I think didn't on the website didn't he coordinate with some other hams and do some absolute phase comparison measurements of the power grid across the western U.S.?
Oh, that's being done routinely. I mean,
right now it is, but this was a couple of years ago. But but so it's the web page where he set up a webcam and he made a movie where he took like one frame at the top of every hour, and you could see the second hand on the clock do this,
jumping around,
But that same web page on the same or a related article, he's up in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, Northern California, Oregon, Washington, and he had somebody say in New Mexico. And they compared notes, and they were really close to each other because they're on more or less the same grid.
Western interconnected, yeah.
Right. But then he got somebody in Texas, and all bets are off with Texas.
Well, all bets are off with Texas. That's right.
Right. I mean, I was reading an article where if you have a really really good ear, the grid frequency in Texas could be far enough apart that if you had a mains frequency run phonograph, you could hear the difference.
Really?
Yes. It's just very slightly off. I mean, they can be several tenths of hertz off, apparently.
That's a lot, actually.
It is. And
a lot,
yeah, at times. And I don't think it's as bad as Hawaii, where if you were to commission a solar inverter or something like that, there are special HECO, Hawaii Electric Power Company settings.
Yeah,
I mean,
to withstand a wider frequency range.
way wider, because they years ago they did an Iberia, Iberian
Yeah, yeah,
Peninsula, the one that happened recently. They were doing those routinely because
yeah,
things would go on, the solars would go on and off, and they finally had to they, they had to they had to get us they had to get disconnect a lot of solar until they got updates from the companies and firmware updates, so that they could tolerate a much wider in frequency range over a period of time before.
But when they wrote those interconnect rules, they never thought solar would be as big as it is.
Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, but your point is yeah, it might be interesting. I really haven't tried to correlate power line noise over that. What is the wavelength of 60 hertz though? I'm wondering.
Well,
It's
60 into 300 million.
yeah, 300. Let's see, 300,000 kilometers divided by 60 equals. So 5,000 kilometers would be a phase. So they could be 2,500 kilometers. 2,500. What is that in freedom units? 1.60. So 1,500 miles away, you could be 180 degrees out of phase.
Yeah.
So that's probably pushing the longer distance for a 20-meter single hop, I think. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's
Well, actually, I was just looking at the known slight frequency difference between the eastern and western grids.
right.
If you were to pick up stuff, you're on the western grid, I assume. So if you
Oh yeah,
picked
I'm
up
on the same
from
grid
East
as you
Coast,
for all practical
yeah,
purposes.
yeah. So if you picked up stuff from the East Coast, it's almost certainly going to be at a different frequency.
Yeah, yeah. In theory, you probably could. I mean, it would probably take a lot more effort than I have, and I probably couldn't do that measure that over the web SDR, remotely. Yeah, because because the temporal timing over the internet isn't good enough for that. But
Yeah, I understand. Background hum and recordings has been used for forensic purposes.
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, which yeah, I came aware of that back in the early mid 90s. I don't know that they used it the same way we're talking about, but I used to be in the SCADA industry before I was in the satellite industry.
Okay.
And I remember seeing the readout from the 94 Northridge earthquake here in Utah. And I got a Xerox copy of the strip chart of the frequency, and you could see when Northridge earthquake happened, you could see this big excursion up by like 0.6 hertz.
Oh yeah.
And,
There's a YouTube channel where you can look at this stuff. They automatically log
yes,
these disturbances, and they can even show you where they originated. You can
right.
see them ripple throughout the map.
Yeah. Then you could see, and it was annotated because you could see it go up, and then somebody had written on the strip chart like Brigham City tripped off here, generation
Yeah.
tripped off here. Then the frequency went way down low. Then other places tripped off, and it rang like a
Right.
bell for about
Right.
a day and a half, and then it didn't get. Then after the grid settled, they ran it like 50 millihertz high for a couple of weeks, just to average it back out. But that was
Yeah.
back when they were required to do that. They had to
Yeah.
stay within some amount of time over a period of a month.
Yeah.
But they're not. My understanding is there's no requirement that they do that anymore. Although
Yeah.
although the main frequency keepers have traditionally been the government hydro plants.
Yeah. But generators have droop control. I assume that's all standardized and coordinated by the system operators. Where the throttle at each generating plant, fossil fuel plant, is controlled by the frequency is one of the terms.
Right, and I'm sure it's getting way more complicated now too.
I'm sure it is.
And the wind. I mean, they talk neither solar nor wind have inertia.
But batteries do.
Right, but the batteries are still being adopted, and they're still a small
Well,
amount.
have you looked at the California grid recently? We routinely peak at about 8 gigawatts every evening coming out of batteries.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, check it out. It's a serious amount of power now.
Well, well, sounds like it's necessary.
Well, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's if you're serious about solar and wind, you need batteries.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have much pump storage in California, do they?
We have some, just not as much as well, you never have as much as you'd like, but no, there's some big pump storage facilities in California.
Yeah, there's
One east of the San Francisco Bay Area.
so I was working with Springville City Power years ago, and they added a pump storage. They added a pump storage facility. This had probably been in the early '90s, and and this is I didn't quite understand the need for it, but I was talking to one of the dispatchers of the power plant, and he's pointed out that when they're wheeling power, if they go over their allocation, at the time it was $12.50 per kilowatt hour from the feds if you could get it, and $17.50 from Utah Power if you could get it. And then Enron blew up that equation later on. I mean, they started, but anyway, that's what the time, and so it cost them like $1 million or $2 to put this pump storage system on, and they could, if they could run if they ran the whole thing flat out, they could drain their tank in 30-ish minutes.
Yeah.
But they pointed out that it paid for itself in like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they could, it was their own peaking.
Yeah.
And that it responded very quickly. They also had a diesel natural gas combination piston generators, like 12, 13 megawatts each. But they couldn't react as fast. It took a while to roll up, spin up.
If we could make all of our electricity with hydro, we'd be in good shape.
Right, right. Yeah, I guess Iceland makes their power with hydro.
I think so. Or
various
geothermal.
kinds of hydro.
Yeah.
Some of it's.
I think Norway does. Norway is almost all hydro.
I think I heard that they're a net exporter of power.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know that I think when I was in Austria last, I think I heard from I think they're actually building some pump storage plants just to be able to buffer power from like Germany.
Right. I was on the Whisper Demon call. We used to have it doesn't show up recently, but a guy from Austria, and he was pointing out that power in Austria is somewhere between 38 and 50 cents a kilowatt hour.
Wow.
It's about the most expensive in Europe, apparently.
I think this was Holger who told me this.
Yeah, this is Holger. Yeah, Holger Gadernig. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be him. That would be him. Yeah. 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 I haven't seen him for a couple months, but yeah. But
at least the French.
You met him when you were went to Friedrichshafen last year.
That's right. Yeah, we looked him up again this last summer, and we went on a trip back into Austria again.
Okay, that's right. That's right. That's right. You have met him. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't go to Radio Hill this time, but we went out, eat, and have lunch, and just chat, and have a good time.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
He seems to be a beer aficionado, from what I could tell.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's
I wonder how the French are making out in all this. They used to have so much nuclear that he used to have to actually do load following with their nuclear plants because of lack of load. But now they can probably just ship whatever they've got into Germany and clean up.
Probably.
If they have the transmission lines. I think that's the problem there, just as it is here.
Right. I know Europe has way more DC lines than North America does.
Well, they're also going under more water than we do.
True. Yeah. I guess they have some beefy interconnects between England and mainland Europe, I guess.
Oh, yeah, the number, but not just there. Also, you have Ireland, you have the Scandinavian countries across the Baltic, and so there's lots of water to cross with a lot of power in Europe. That's why they have so much DC.
I was reading about there's some of the DC lines actually use an ocean as one of the return paths.
Only
But
in degraded modes.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think they're the old ones, and they're in. Yeah, you're right, as a backup.
Can you
But
imagine what that does to the electrodes, DC, on those electrodes in seawater?
yeah, I imagine the place smells like a bleach factory.
Yeah, I mean, how would you even deal with that? I mean, it's going to make chlorine. What do you know, that's not acceptable.
No, no. Oh, yeah. Although there's a on the west side of the Great Salt Lake here, there's I don't know what it's called now. It used to be called Magnesium Corporation of America. They were the biggest chlorine polluter possibly in the world. I mean,
Huh.
'cause they you know they would electrolyze the water out of the Great Salt Lake in the
Yeah,
process of pulling the metals out of it, mostly magnesium.
yeah. Well, it's not seawater.
No, no, but the salt, sodium,
Yeah.
but yeah, and so a guy who we used to work with went out there. Their local VHF business comm system quit working. It couldn't go more than a mile or two. So he climbed the tower that was on, and the tower itself was sketchy because everything was corroded.
Yeah.
And so he's looking at the heliax. Then he decided to poke it, and he realized that, wait a damn minute, there's no jacket. What I'm poking is the foam dielectric. The jacket and the copper had just gone away.
From chlorine?
I don't know what. I thought the jacket was like polyethylene or something, which would be pretty. But yeah, the jacket was gone. I mean the jacket and the outer shield metal copper was totally gone.
Yeah. What do you get when you add chlorine to PVC, I wonder?
Oh well, I mean, burning PVC is that's damn nasty stuff.
I mean, well, PVC already has chlorine in it, right? So
Right.
just,
Well, yeah, it's the C
yeah,
part. Yes.
yeah.
Vinyl chloride is really nasty.
Very.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a precursor chemical, and I guess
Yeah.
it's also what
It's
comes out of.
famous from railroad car accidents.
Oh yeah, in Ohio or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and that's also what gets produced, I believe, when you burn the stuff is vinyl chloride gas. Among the
probably. It's the monomer that makes PVC.
yeah, it's not monovinyl chloride.
It's polyvinyl chloride, right?
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, but yeah. So
Yeah. Making a polymer makes all the difference, like polyethylene glycol versus ethylene glycol.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
One's a poisonous antifreeze. The other one is a laxative.
Right, and used and added to food a lot.
Right.
Although ethylene glycol they used to add to food until there's a famous instance in the 30s where it was added to cough syrup, and
Yeah.
it killed hundreds of people before it's like
Yeah.
the chemist was like, "Oh, I had no idea it was poisonous."
Sure.
And I think that was one of the things that caused the FDA to actually start requiring testing of drugs to make sure it didn't kill people and made sure that they were at least somewhat effective.
Yeah.
But
Not a bad idea, really.
no, probably, yeah. I mean, it's bad. It should be bad for a business if your products kill people. It
You
should
would
be.
think so.
Yeah, you'd think so, but I don't know.
You would think so, which is, I keep wondering, why are so many people dying with fentanyl? I mean, it's like, why would they want to kill off their customers? Even drug dealers have, profit margins.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Hmm.
So, boy, conversation went all over the map. But anyway,
Yeah, really.
so
Anyway, I'm gonna go back and read the rest of your blog.
yeah, yeah, solar bad, fire good.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no.
Go with
Solar's
Frank.
fine. I like solar. I just don't
I,
want
I,
to,
I, I was misquoting Frankenstein. Fire bad. You know,
Oh, yeah.
solar bad, fire good. If
Yeah.
Frankenstein were around
But I
now.
was gonna make espresso.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. That's right.
Been interesting listening.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, it's bad
I
for
worked in the power industry in the 1960s when I was in college.
Hmm.
it's changed a
So
bit, huh?
Well, I mean, bars are still bars. I, I,
Well,
so,
that's true.
so years ago, I was, I was a technician for a company that did consulting and SCADA and all that. And we had, but two of the people that I worked with were some of the best power guys in the business. I mean, one of them was run off his feet all the time in investigating outages.
Actually, that's not quite true, Eric, Clint. VARs are not the same as VARs today. Back then, VARs were due to things like inductive motor loads. Today, they're switching harmonics.
That's true. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess that's, yeah, you're right. I mean, power factor is in these days of nonlinear loads.
It means something else. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you call it. You include crest factor and everything else, but whatever. But anyway, his name was Burns Hanson. So he came up to me and plopped this thing down on my workbench and said, "I want you to calibrate this." And he found a book, and here's the procedure. And then he said, and you need to make sure that you do this right. And then he proceeded to tell. So what it was is it's a little Bakelite box, maybe about this big, and in it looked what looked like the rotor out of a power meter. Rotor. But
Yeah.
on the rotor there were some pins, and on stationary there were some very sensitive micro switches. And this rotor is actually on a spring, so you turn it and it'd spin itself back, slowly.
Yeah.
And so what it was is it was an overload sensor that you would attach to a current transducer on a transmission line. So if the current was a little bit above on the high side, this thing would slowly rotate, and when it finally did maybe 300 degrees of rotation, it would touch the other thing and trip it out. If it was a big overload, the thing would go boom and go really quickly. So
Yeah.
one of those things. And it was one of those that had been miscalibrated that caused the 1965 New York City power outages.
Really?
Yes, it was one of those. He said he said, Pointat said it was one of these things, probably the same model even. He said that was miscalibrated. That you told me all about that, and so I made damn sure it was calibrated right. So it was really close too. I didn't really need to do much to it. It's like, looks good to me. But anyway.
Those things are still remarkably miscalibrated. You still keep hearing about it.
Right.
Whatever kind of protector relays they have. That big blackout we had in San Diego in 2011. I think the final straw was some breakers opening at San Onofre that should not have opened at that current level, power level. But things were already in very bad shape at that point. So.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think. So one of the last statewide power outages in Utah. I was in junior high school at the time. Pretty much took. We got sent home. Happened like in the morning or early afternoon. And what it turned out was that at the time, they only moved it recently. The southern part of the Salt Lake Valley, just before you go up over the hill down to Provo, off to the west side of the freeway was the Utah State Prison. Well, the power lines went over the Utah State Prison, and they would burn their trash.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
And so apparently they were burning trash, and the smoke was going right through the lines, and they put more trash on it. It was black smoke. Suddenly, zap! It ionized the smoke and took the whole state out, and part of Idaho and part of Wyoming. It probably scared the shit out of the prisoners, but it took a while for the grid to collapse because overloads hadn't been set right. And so my WA7X, he was working on the other side of the valley, and he saw the fluorescent lights sort of start flickering, and he heard the motors growling in the HVAC system. He looked out the window, and there's these 345 kV power lines. He could see them moving. Then a few seconds later, all the power was out and all the things tripped off, and they had to do black starts of the coal plants. They have a 250 megawatt plant near Price and 2 gigawatt plus coal plants down south of Price in central Utah. and those had to be black started. And to do that, they had to manually go out to all these switch yards and isolate things and route power from hydro from out of state or in state or wherever they could get it, and then just bring them up and slowly and then slowly add stuff to the grid. So it took more than a day at least to get.
Oh yeah, it's a slow process.
And so I was driving past one of those power plants, and I noticed on the roof of the main generator hall, there's all these little stacks of random heights with the angles cut in them. So I actually knew a ham W7MR who consulted for the power company, and I asked him what those are for. Can you guess what those are for?
No idea.
The steam out of the boiler.
That's right. If they have to,
Oh.
Have you ever heard it?
If they have to scram the boiler because the load goes away, you don't want a 3 gigawatt steam whistle going off.
Okay.
So they're all cut at an angle. They're all different lengths. But he told me that he'd heard that go off once, and it's like the jaws of hell opening up. It's literal ear splitting roar.
I've heard it.
You could probably hear it.
Fortunately, I was a mile away.
You probably still had to cover your ears.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I mean, I've heard the way he described it. It was just probably one of the loudest sounds, man-made sounds there is. But you're suddenly getting rid of gigawatts potential energy. In a minute or two.
It's kinetic energy.
Well, that's true. Well, by the time you open the valves, it is. Yes. But I can imagine.
What happened at San Onofre too, because that reactor scrammed because it lost its load. So I guess, they must have had to dump all their steam.
Right, and I can just imagine if they hadn't thought about, some of these pipes, resonating like a pipe organ, and gigawatt steam whistle going off. But anyway, but still a roar. I'm told.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like.
Oh,
yeah.
And I don't know how long it ran, but it was a long time.
Right.
I mean, many minutes.
Well, it depends on the thermal mass of boilers, I guess.
Right, and I can imagine doing that ain't any good for the boilers either, because I knew a guy whose job was to he made good money, but his job was to go into boilers that had been just shut down with explosives to descale them. So what they would do is, the boilers are like 165 degrees, 170 degrees. So they would dress up in heavy winter clothes with ice packs, and then have a kind of a respirator and cover their face and breathe through the cold of their ice packs. And they would spend like however long they could stand in there. They had thermometers and alarms, and they would set charges and blow the scale off of the boilers that were still really, really hot, because they wanted to minimize the downtime. And he went all over the place for that and made really good money. Because
that sounds like a MythBusters episode. Jeez.
It sounds like it, but that's the guy that did it.
The time they cleaned the hardened concrete off the inside of a cement mixer.
That's exactly what it reminded me of too. Yeah.
I think they used too many explosives on that one.
Well, they took it to the extreme, yes. and then I, and of course, anytime they fire up, you bring a boiler up and down, some of the tubes develop leaks, and so they crimp them off or shut them off, and at some point, people have to go in there and re-weld them or relay them, I guess.
San Onofre shut down not long after that blackout because of steam generator problems.
That plant's being decommissioned, as I recall.
It is. Yeah, we just drove past it yesterday. We see it on I-5. It's right at the north end of San Diego County as you're driving to LA.
Yeah, the Songs, I think, is the
Songs. Yes, yeah. San Onofre.
By the way, my brother was in charge of that steam generator project
at San Onofre.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems strange when they just decided to decommission the plant. What
happened was the the manufacturer in Japan of the replacement
Mitsubishi.
steam generator substituted materials. It corroded out in 2 years,
Uh,
and it was not worth replacing it.
huh. So you just decommission the whole plant.
Yep.
Well, the timing is kind of bad.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, 2 gigawatts 24/7 is a lot.
Yeah. This earlier this year, I drove near-ish the Palos Verdes plant in Arizona, and that's pretty impressive. I think that's close to 4 gigawatts at this
Yeah,
point.
there are several of them.
Yeah, I mean, it makes its own weather. I mean, it's always cloudy in that general area.
Yeah, well, any plant with condensers is going to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not particularly scared of nuclear power.
Me neither.
I mean,
I'd like to have it along with everything else.
right. I mean, far fewer people have died of radiation poisoning and all that than from the
Oh,
mercury from coal-fired plants.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I, I don't know if it's true, but it seems reasonable that they're pointing people that worried about the mercury in fluorescent lights. It
Yeah.
pointed out that in the lifetime of that light, they will dump more mercury into the air, far more mercury into the air than the thing contains. But I guess it's partly
Oh, yeah, yeah.
depends on where the coal comes from. But yeah,
Well, not out here.
yeah,
No coal plant generation in California, at least in the Cal ISO area. I don't know about LA because that line from Delta, Utah was, I think, going directly to LADWP.
right.
Is that plant shut down now?
I don't know actually. I heard I didn't think so, but then I heard somebody saying that it might be. Let me look it up. Uh,
Kind of symbolic, wasn't it? LA, exporting all of its coal pollution to Utah.
right. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here.
But that's one of the two DC lines that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, it looks like it's being converted to
Solar, I heard.
well, I mean, natural gas.
Oh, and natural gas?
Yeah, it's sort of. Let's see here. It, I'm looking at the Wikipedia article, which has to be correct. I
Of
probably.
course.
And hydrogen. Where the hell are they getting the hydrogen?
That's probably from natural gas.
Let's see. Natural. Okay, yeah. Let's see. The new natural gas fired turbines burning a mix of 70% natural gas and 30% green hydrogen from the electrolysis of water used by.
That seems very wasteful.
Well, well, I mean,
Where do you get the electricity to
Exactly.
water?
solar. Well, it says green. It says green stuff. There's quite a bit of solar in that area, so I'm guessing at least some of it's solar. But I mean,
Well, green, I think they call this stuff where they take steam and I'm trying to remember just how don't they have a way to take steam and coal or carbon or
Yeah, it's called town gas. It's a mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen.
yeah, is that considered green hydrogen?
I wouldn't call it green hydrogen because there's carbon in it.
Yeah.
let's see
And
here.
that's the problem with hydrogen is the cheapest ways to make it now release carbon.
So it looks like this article isn't clear. It looks like it was written by several different people, and whoever updated it last didn't update everything. The last coal part might have been decommissioned in the past year or two. It's all.
Intermountain Power Plant. That's the
I
name.
think, yeah. I'm looking, yeah.
Replacement this year, 2025, 840 megawatt natural gas plant designed to also burn green hydrogen.
yeah, it's sort of vague on whether it's operating at what
Yeah.
capacity and whether it's burning coal or not. I mean, I'm I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, it's yeah. I've there's a in Salt Lake, near downtown Salt Lake. There's a, I don't know, couple hundred, a couple hundred megawatt plant that was coal, or the Gatsby plant, and I do know that they did convert that to natural gas. I do remember when it still burned coal. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably in the 80s. It was still burning coal, but of course, being right just like literally 2 miles west of downtown Salt Lake, that wasn't too popular.
No.
They couldn't run it in the winter when we had temperature
Conversions.
conversions.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. LADWP decided to go coal free in 2020, so that's done. That's why they didn't finish the Intermountain plant.
Right.
Only 2 out of 4 units built.
Yeah. Last time I drove under the line, I couldn't hear the hiss from it. So, and that would have been October of 23, I think. Because I have driven under it, and you get near it, you start hearing just a hiss on the AM radio, and
Yeah.
the compass goes one way then the other way. But uh, that was years ago. But the last time, it didn't seem to be the DC line didn't seem to be active.
Yeah.
We also have a we have a there's called the what's it called, and just west of Orem, Utah. It's they built a 2 gigawatt natural gas plant just in the past decade, just right on the edge of Utah Lake. It's I can't think of it's Vineyard plant. There we go, the Vineyard plant. Which seems weird. Why do Mormon settlers have vineyards? For their wine, of course, but I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Well, when the pioneers came out to the valley, they kind of ignored that. Some of the first things they built were stills because it was medicinal.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you need it for cleaning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pain relief and all that. Yeah. Now, Lakeside Power Station. There we go. It's in Vineyard, Utah. What does it say? Yeah, it's that's kind of vague. Oh yeah, 1.1 gigawatt. And that one, when there's temperature inversions, can fog up the valley pretty good.
Yeah.
I've been there during inversions, and where the steam hits a ceiling a few hundred feet off the deck, and it just spreads out and goes down. Yeah. My understanding, people that have lived there a long time, that was the site of Geneva Steel, which is an open hearth steel plant, and smelter. And my understanding is, my dad tells about going down that area in the late 40s, early 50s, and pretty much you held your nose for 20 miles.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I for some reason Facebook's been showing me these little reel clips of steam locomotives. People really into those, and every time I see one of those, I think, "Oh my God, I'm so glad we don't have those anymore." God, they were dirty.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun, but they're dirty. Yeah, I was watching. There, if you've ever watched Joe Scott, on YouTube, a while ago they had one about that included steam locomotive accidents. And there's a famous picture. It just looked like you just see tubes splayed everywhere. You can't even see the locomotive.
Yes.
Anymore. Yeah. In fact, there's a famous incident probably about 20 years ago, where back east there was a steam fair, and somebody was having trouble with one of their steam engines, and all these experts from around the country were gathered around it when it blew up and killed pretty much all of them, most of them. And so when it came time to investigate this, they went down the Rolodex and realized, oh, we can't talk to him, he's dead. Oh, that guy's dead too. they had just, I mean, they had these standby people that just knew steam, and a lot of them weren't around anymore or were in the hospital.
The biggest danger is the boiler runs dry of water.
Oh yes,
And then the water line gets below the, I think they call it the flash plate or whatever.
The fire
and
boilers.
And then you put the water in and it turns to steam and it can't get out the safety valves fast enough, and away it goes.
Yeah.
There's a famous there's the Sultana, there it is, the Sultana steamboat explosion. Read about that. That is just, if you want to kill people with a boiler, just read that. That's a how-to. And essentially, it's exactly that. The boiler is badly patched. The boat was heavily overloaded, and apparently eyewitness reports and the survivors say that there were things to look at. People would go to one side, the boat would lift one way, then they'd look the other way, when the boiler ran low, it flashed and exploded, and one boiler set off, the other would set off the other.
Yeah.
And it killed 1,864 people.
Were they all on the boat, I assume?
Pretty much, yes. It's considered to be the worst maritime disaster in U.S. history. And most of them were returning Union soldiers, I believe. But
this was in the 1860s, at the end of the war?
April 1865. It was about this. It was within a few days or a week of Lincoln's being assassinated. Oh, the day after Lincoln being assassinated that this happened. Yeah,
what was the name again?
Sultana, like the nut or whatever. Yeah, the U.S. the Mississippi River steamboat Sultana, if you want to. Yep. I mean, I think there was an episode on PBS of The American Experience that talked about that, or either that, or maybe Ken Burns' Civil War maybe talked about it, but I don't know.
I don't remember it in that. I've watched that
yeah,
a couple of times, but.
Yeah, I'm surprised it wouldn't have been at least mentioned if it weren't, but I remember saying something about it on TV, and it might have been The American Experience or something. Yeah. But design capacity of 376 passengers, and there were 2,127 when 3 of the 4 boilers exploded, which is why 1,863 people died that they know of. Yeah, and it was partly an ineptly repaired boiler too. I mean, there's some boilers in the mountains, fire tube boilers in the mountains up here left over from mining from the 19th century, and everything is riveted.
Oh yeah,
that's what they do.
I was standing next to a 65 horsepower case traction steam engine just a week ago.
Well, it must not have blown up.
And it wasn't made in 1915.
I grew up,
and my buddy's son was running it.
Yeah.
And his granddaughter was the best engineer there.
Yeah, you just gotta let it not run low on water.
Oh yeah, that's the worst thing.
Yeah, I grew up in a rural town in Indiana when I was.
Where?
Bern.
Well, I'm from Valparaiso.
Bern, so you know where Bern is? Ever heard of Amish?
I've heard of it.
Ever heard of Amishville?
No.
Okay, so you get on US 27, head south out of Fort Wayne. The first town you get to is Decatur, which is the seat of Adams County. Then you go through Lynn Grove, which is, you blink and you miss it. Then the next one is Bern, which is about 3,500 people. And just outside south of Bern is Amishville, which is a tourist trap. But there are a lot of Amish there, and so I was born in Decatur.
Well,
I don't remember which part of the state is Valparaiso in.
It's the northwest corner.
Oh, okay, up by Terre Haute.
It's on 30.
Okay. I left there when I was 10. So
Oh, okay.
I've driven through there a couple times since, but
I
I
was I was just back there. That's where I was standing in front of the 65 horsepower case.
right. But since Bern is named after the city in Switzerland, it has this heavy Swiss background. So in July they have the Swiss days, and I don't know if they still do it. When I was little, they would bring from all over, the state. They would bring steam engines and hit and miss engines on the demonstrations.
Well, that's
So and
that's what
so
this was.
yeah, and I remember distinctly. I was small, being small, maybe first grade, second grade, and I could just walk right up to these hit and miss engines running these with these big huge canvas belts that were 30 feet long, running threshing machines for demonstration, and the safety restraint was, don't go very close to that, Clint, otherwise you could get hurt and sucked up into it. But that was enough. I didn't want to get very near that thing. But I do have distinct memories of those the coal of the steam engines and the hit and miss going, you know.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, just great stuff. I mean, I don't know if they still do that.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, I was just
Yeah.
at one of these shows in my hometown.
Yeah. Valparaiso is a bit bigger than the town I grew in.
Yeah, it's about 35,000 now.
Yeah, where I grew up,
When,
when I lived there, the town had maybe about 3,200 people in it. Now it's about 1,000 more.
when the 1940 sign said 8,000,
Hmm.
the 1950 sign said 12,000.
Oh, baby boomer.
And I left
Uh,
in the early 60s and went in the army. And when I left the army, I came out here to the West Coast, to the East Coast. I'm in Groton, Massachusetts.
oh, okay. Yeah.
And
My family on both sides is from Utah, so my parents just moved back home. My older brother was born here, so in Utah. So anyway, so yeah, so on both sides of the family, I can trace it back to people riding covered wagons and settling in Utah. So, and on both sides of the family, I can point out people who polyged. In fact, my great grandfather, my mom's father's father was a low key polygamist. When if they found out, you were immediately thrown into prison. But back in the 50s, so he kept it very low key. I was talking to my aunt, and she said, I went into the nursing corps in World War II, and I'd been there for a couple of months before I finally realized, wait a minute, those aren't my cousins that live on the other side of the duplex. They have the same father as me. And then she talked to her brothers and sisters, and they said, yeah, didn't you know? And she kind of felt silly at that point. Like she was like 20, 21 and finally realized, wait, my dad polygged. But anyway, this is Utah. I mean, you go to Costco or someplace and you'll see the polygamists there in the big vans and prairie dresses, and just a thing here in Utah. Just a thing. And it's not illegal. It's not illegal because they're not officially married. So they're just cohabitating, and that's not illegal anymore.
No, common out here too.
Yeah. So my mom was a home health nurse for a couple of years, but she said that they do have a problem with inbreeding.
Yeah.
They really do. There's some of the smaller communities that are in a really bad way. Yeah. So I mean, you'd think their last name was Habsburg or Romanov or something, but
yeah. Do you know Jim WA2ZKD? He's one of my users.
Yeah, I've seen the call sign, and I think I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it before.
After we were chatting for a while, he was using my stuff. He says, "Oh, Phil, by the way, do you have a Wambach in your family?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my mother's maiden name." And he says, "Oh, we're 6 cousins."
Oh, 6, huh?
Yeah, it was in Rochester, New York, which is where my mom is from. And so we traced it back to a town in Germany, Schifferstadt. And yeah, his name is there. I mean, we were there a couple of years ago looking, doing a little research and those are small towns. They must have inbred constantly. So recently Jim tells me, "Oh, I found another path by which we're related." And I'm waiting for him to just tally up all the different paths by which we are like six cousins or something.
I lived in central Pennsylvania near State College for several years. I went to Penn State for a few years, and there you could literally tell what town somebody is from because of the way they look.
I believe that.
Because they've lived there for 200 years. Like
Right.
from Center Hall, different for the people from Bollesburg, from
Right.
Fort Matilda, and they
Right.
do have inbreeding problems. I mean, my mom was a nurse, and cleft palate and hemophilia were relatively common back there.
Yeah.
Among other things. So I mean,
Well, fortunately, people are in general more mobile these days.
yeah, the Amish were so when I was really young, both of my parents, well, my dad worked and my mom went to nursing school and also worked. So I was driven out. My brothers and I, especially me and my younger brother, were driven out to the Shorts' house. A big Amish family. They had 18 kids, 21 kids, of which 18 survived. So we'd be out there the whole day. So apparently, my first language is Swiss, not English. Not that
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
Well, Swiss is not a language, but okay.
yeah, well, that's what they call it. They call
German.
it's a Low German that's
Okay,
mostly
Swiss German. Okay, you said Swiss.
they call it Swiss. If you ask what language they speak, they would say it's Swiss.
Okay.
And it's more or less a modern German speaker probably would not be able to understand too much.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Right.
It does sound very different from.
And it apparently has a little bit of Italian influence in it because they're southern.
Yeah.
Southern.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. But anyway, so they were always marrying their second cousins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So my folks, with my dad changing jobs, ended up in near Worcester, Ohio, and then one of the Amish friend, the family, my mom kept in touch all these years, and what they would do is they would hire an English, which is us, we are English. They would hire an English to drive a stretch van, and they would load it up, with like 10, 12 Amish, and then they would women, and they would haul them over to somewhere in somewhere in Pennsylvania for courting. And apparently somehow, for whatever reason, some edict or something came down saying you really shouldn't be marrying anybody you know. So they would haul the Amish, yeah, anybody you know. So they would haul the Amish ladies over to somewhere in Pennsylvania to meet husbands, because they recognized that this inbreeding was really getting out of, they were having real trouble. So they didn't really want them to marry people they knew, which they would probably be related to.
Right.
Yeah. So Lizzie and Peter Schwartz, they were the first cousins, and they married. And Lizzie was my babysitter. When she was alive, if we went over to her house, we had to count on being there for like 6 hours, and and we had to stay for dinner. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But which tells you something. The Amish don't really associate with us English much.
No.
But unless they know you, but they'd known us. They'd known me since I was a baby, literally, and they remembered me. So which is so anyway, it's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
One quick story. So we pull up to the Schwartz's house, and we get out of the car, and there's this single piston engine connected to a contraption, and it's making the pump handle go like this, about this fast, pump, going put, and it's going up and down. Some sort of geared contraption. So we go up there, and Peter comes out, shuts it off, and my mom says, "Hey, Peter, what's with the gas motor?" And he said, "We still have the handle." Yeah, that's what he said.
Well, we had a windmill on my uncle's farm where I worked summers,
Oh yes.
and it had a pump jack on it. It's what they
Oh, yeah.
called it, and an electric motor. But it was my job. My job, if the wind was moving at all, it was my job to run out and turn the motor off and put the windmill back in.
Yeah,
I had to change these, put bolts in and everything from this big shaft that went up and down from the windmill.
I remember that in the shorts they had those the windmills with like the 2 dozen blades on them, and
Yeah.
their tower they had those, and they had pins that they would pull if the wind wasn't blowing, so you could pump it manually. But so one time I was there and I ended up in the hospital with dysentery. My parents suggested to the Schwartzes, you really need to move the outhouse a little farther away from the well. So, but it put me in the hospital for a couple of days with Shigella. So, yeah, they took it in stride. You know, they would move the outhouse every so often because you know every several months. They, So, oh well. So I grew up having absolutely no misunderstanding of where meat came from.
Yeah.
I knew exactly where it came from because I'd seen them. It's time we're having chicken tonight. All right, whack, or there's a pig maybe or something like that, or the cow doesn't make as much milk. Well, we're going to start doing, we're going to do that. I remember that from very early on. So
remember the show Dirty Jobs on forget which cable channel it was on, but
Micro on Discovery. I didn't see too many
it turns out his father taught me history when I was in junior high school. That was a weird coincidence. Anyway, my favorite episode was when he went out, it was somewhere near Las Vegas, and he went out to a hog farm. And he would go around to the Las Vegas hotels and pick up all the scrap food from the buffet casinos and feed it to his hogs. Oh, that was a great episode.
Yeah, I can just imagine. I don't see
that was going on when I moved to Massachusetts in 1966. And it was in a town that's kind of a suburb. If you've ever been out here, it's not far from 128, which was called the Electronics Highway back in the 1960s. But when I left work at 4:30 in the afternoon, the smell from the pig farm a mile west of us was pretty gross.
Yeah. The farmer himself was really quite a character. I mean, the stories he would tell about the time he got some, like week-old milk or something spoiled that he couldn't sell, and he fed it to his pigs, and he had a whole farm full of drunk pigs.
Yeah.
I don't know if the story was true or not, but it was certainly made for a fun story. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a certain smell of that's. I go to a more primitive farm. There's a certain smell that brings back the memories. I don't know what it is. It is some sort of fermentation. I think must be fermenting corn or something.
Yeah.
But I've occasionally smelled it out here, but back east I'd smell it all the time.
There are plenty of farms in California too. It's not all Los Angeles and San Francisco.
One of the things that are related with Swiss days and a few other things, the Amish would make apple butter, and what they do is they would get up all the apples, green, red, road probably, and make and press them. And this stuff wasn't really fit to drink, but what they would do is they'd make they would start out with like 50 gallons of apple juice or apple cider, and boil it down to like 5 gallons or 4 gallons of apple butter. Really, really heavy. It's almost fairly heavy stuff. It's not like the apple butter you buy in the store. It's a little bit caramelized. They would do it on a coal fire, so it had that. So it had a little bit of the sulfur coal taste to it as well.
Wonderful, delicious.
Oh yes, there's nothing like it. I had a friend of the family send me some. About 20 years ago. She's since passed away, and I cherished 2 bottles of it. And I cherish those bottles, but yeah, it is not.
Despite the coal taste, okay.
Well, no, the coal taste added just a tiny little bit of sulfur. Maybe they added a bit of sulfur dioxide to it, but I kind of doubt it. But I remember them making it, and the open kettle over a coal fire, it's gonna, kind of smoky. It's gonna impart a little bit of flavor.
Yeah.
But that was, slightly caramelized and just sort of, it was thicker than applesauce.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah,
very dark.
yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, the Amish apple butters. I've been when my parents when my parents lived in Ohio, we went to one of the Amish tourist trap and got some of the apple butter there, but it's not the same. That's just like thickened applesauce or something like that. But this caramelized and maybe very slightly burned because you have to stir it all the time. Just unique flavor. Yeah, I would
Almost black.
Yes, it's almost black. And if you have it in your fridge for quite a while, it sets up and crystallizes a bit. Because it lasts forever in the fridge. Because it's mostly sugar. But yeah, you're right. That's the stuff. Fairly thick and almost black. Yeah.
Huh. I don't know if I've had it or not. I grew up in Maryland. We used to go into Pennsylvania all the time. I don't know if I've had it or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, Bob has run across this. But yeah, I remember them making it on the banks of the Wabash River. We lived within walking distance of the Wabash when it was relatively small.
That had to be close to the headwaters.
So the burn is only like 3 or 4 miles off Ohio border.
Yeah.
So there was a train track that ran by our house, and frequently we would just walk down the train track and the thing that we loved to do was we'd walk across the trestle while looking down, and if you walk while it's moving, the gaps the gaps are about between the sleepers are a couple inches, so you could get your foot. You could wrench your foot in there if you wanted. But if you're walking, the persistence of vision makes it look like you get disoriented because you're like 20 feet above the water. Because as you're moving, you can kind of see the water below you. Because the gaps. You know what I'm saying? If you've ever been to the Royal Gorge Bridge and you walk along it, you see a sort of you can see the gorge right below, and it's a bit disorienting. We used to love doing that, just walking across this bridge, praying to God that a train wasn't on its way. But we would do the old thing of put our ear against the tracks. We don't know if that actually worked or not, but before we went across the trestle, we'd put our ear on the tracks. And
There's some proper geek would take a voltmeter, right?
Well, yeah, but I was a little kid. This is one of those things. Our house was the most south and east on the most south and east corner of the town. There's nobody south or east of us in town, just right on. And parents of that, my parents were these, the things like, our instructions were, be back before it gets dark, and that was our instructions.
Mine too.
Yeah, it's like there were fields and things and train tracks and whatnot, and so we just walk down the train tracks or go miles and miles through the fields or ride our bikes, all over, in Ohio or something like that. Just do it, and as long as we got back for lunch or dinner or whatever it was, things were fine. Nothing really bad happened to us. Except grew up to be a nerd, but then
and everybody in town knew your mother.
Well,
at least that was my story.
That's probably true because my mom was known to be a nurse. She worked as a school nurse and a speech and hearing therapist. So that is probably not far from the fact. Plus, she was always working with a bloodmobile and you know and stuff like that. So a
Yeah,
lot of people do it.
I would be walking in any corner of my hometown, and somebody would see me and say, "You must be Robert Reif, Karen Dolch's son." Of course, that was her maiden name.
Right.
And like I say, yeah, that's me. Of course, some of these people I knew, but a lot of times they were just people who knew me and I didn't know them.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't get away with much of it.
Well, us as kids, we could get away with more, but you're right. Somebody would know who you were. Um, yeah, I guess I don't know how many. So yeah, at the elementary school, I don't know how many of them lived in town because for the grades 1 through 5, the ones from Geneva, Indiana, would be bused up to the elementary school for 1 to 5, and when you're sixth and seventh grade, everybody went to Geneva instead, and then everybody went to the Byrne High School from both towns. So I don't know. Some of my friends didn't live in town, but so I have no idea how many of them were actually in the little town. But the classes were not that big. I mean, there were like 2 classrooms for each grade, maybe 25 students each. So maybe the elementary school, there's probably 50 kids total between the 2 towns, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
There were only like 2 or 3 classes per grade at most. So
My hometown when I was in grade school was they had when I started there was four schools, 4 grade schools, grade school, and they went to 5 while I was still in grade school. Build a new school. I went to the same school my mother went to.
Oh, yeah, the school I went to, they tore down maybe about 10, 15 years ago. So up until what was it, maybe 5th grade or 6th grade, at that time the Amish were required to go to public schools. Then sometime in the 70s or 80s, there's a Supreme Court case where the Amish were allowed to do their own schools if they wanted. And that's what they did in this area. So suddenly, like a quarter of all the students just vanished, and suddenly they couldn't. Didn't make sense to have as many schools. So there's even fewer smaller schools now left. But after 5th or 6th grade, the Amish were no longer in there. They were only required to go to only so far. Then after that, they didn't go to school at all.
We had mostly what were called Mennonites, which were a bit progressive Amish.
Oh yes.
Some of my best friends were.
The biggest Mennonite church in the world is in Byrne, Indiana.
Is it?
It is. I've been in it. During the summer, my parents would send us off to every Bible school in the summer, and I swear all the churches conspired to put them right after another. There'd be like 2 or 3 weeks of Bible school. So we'd go to the Baptist Bible school, then we'd go to the First Missionary Church Bible School, then we'd go to the Mennonite one, then we'd go to never went to the JW Bible School because they were kind of on, then we'd go to the Lutheran one. I mean, they were just bang, 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 one after another. So
we were more progressive. The churches got together and there was one big town Bible school, and whatever level you were, you might be in one of the different churches. But the thing was, you met these kids that you didn't know and stuff. That was so pretty much everybody in my hometown kind of knew everybody. You knew who they were, at least.
Well, in my case, since we went to Bible school with a lot of them, we knew what church they went to. Not that it was a big secret. I mean, our family were the odd one out. My parents weren't active Mormons at the time, so I mean, but it was no secret. But we were there, so it's like you can't be all that bad. And I don't remember that we got special attention from the Bible school teachers either. It just like because I think a lot of the parents did it just to get the kids out of the house, sending to just sequential Bibles.
Well, yeah, yeah.
I'm sure that was at least some of it. But I do remember, I have distinct memories of finding the door to the steeple open, unlocked in the Mennonite church, and climbing all the way up to, where the bell was. I don't know if it was always unlocked, but I remember going up there. It's like really kind of cool. But yeah, middle of Bern on the Main Street, where intersection of US 27 and 118 is in Bern, Indiana, is where the big Mennonite is, the biggest one at the time. Maybe there's a bigger one now.
Bell
But
ringing
yeah.
used to be a very dangerous occupation.
Oh yes, yeah, I could imagine.
You know why? Because it was their job to go warn of an approaching thunderstorm.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. At least in Europe it was before Benjamin Franklin came along.
Oh yes, that's yeah. Yeah. I was half expecting a joke when you said bell ringer is a dangerous occupation, but
Oh
yeah.
no, it actually was. I mean,
yeah, I can see that.
what I always thought was amusing is when he invented the lightning rod, people argued that he was thwarting God's will, by and then of course the obvious counter retort to that is, well, how come the churches keep getting hit by lightning all the time?
Right,
They're the highest buildings in the town, right?
right. I'm sure he had a pithy quote.
Yeah. Knowing something about Benjamin Franklin, I don't doubt it at all.
Right. Yeah.
You ever read his essay that he wrote when he was in Paris about daylight? Well, the one that's credited with inventing daylight savings time, although he didn't actually do that.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, well, it was hilarious. He was talking about, how he had this amazing scientific discovery he had just made, that you don't have to wait till noon, that the sun actually puts out light as soon as it comes up.
Wow.
And you didn't have so, if they just went to bed earlier and got up earlier, the Parisians, and he actually calculated how much candle wax they could save by getting up earlier.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the way he wrote his discovery, I just cracked up. He said he discovered this, and then he was talking with a friend, but his friend was not convinced. His friend said, "Well, how do you know that when you opened up your shutters, no, you weren't letting the light, the sun come in. You were letting the dark go out."
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. He's a guy I would have liked to have a beer with. He sounds like an interesting character. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Our kind of sense of humor,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Well,
does this normally go this late?
Sometimes. I mean, if it goes this late, it's usually off on tangents like this.
Like this one. Yeah.
That's okay. I've been enjoying it.
Sometimes it just stops at like 8:30 or something, but sometimes it just goes on. But I do need to. It's probably getting on midnight where you are.
Yeah, 5 till
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Of course, I got a 12:30 schedule, so.
Oh, to where?
I talk with a good friend that we've done this for years, and
like on 80 or something.
Well, we're using 40 right now at this time of day. He's on Vancouver Island.
Oh, okay.
He's got a grape. I built it, but he put it on the air. I built the board.
Okay.
We built about 50 of those boards.
Right.
Passed most of them out.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, I think I'll wander off though. I need to do a few things.
Take care, everybody. Nice.
Hi, everyone.
Nice evening.
Good to meet you, Bob. See you, Phil. All right.
Yeah.
Bye. I'll end the meeting now. Looks like I'm in charge somehow. Bye.
Goodbye.